So welcome to the October 6th Sensible meeting for the town of Richmond. I guess we'll start with public comment. Mary?
Hi there. Thank you. Mary Cole. Two things, please. I want to compliment the road crew on the excellent job they did on the sidewalk. It was a minor delay overall. They were very courteous, as they always have been, but the sidewalk looks awesome. I never want one by my house. Just put that in your pipe and smoke it. And when we get the second new door, can we stop propping the door open downstairs? Because when we get the new security system, this is kind of going to defeat the purpose of it. I know how to burn wood, and those little wooden blocks are just nothing for kindling. One of them I provided. But could we just please stop propping that door when it's hot? The air conditioning goes out through that second set of doors. That second set of doors is there for a reason and not to be propped up. If you belong in this building, someone will let you in by key. Otherwise, out of here, Jack. And is it possible to move P up to F on the agenda, because they both relate to signs? If you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no problem with
I
that.
don't see any reason not to do that. Do you see any reason not to do that, Josh? The only reason not to, I can see, would be that I think P might take 10+ minutes, and we get the fire department scheduled pretty accurately to be here after the meeting.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's planning on showing up for P to hear that conversation.
Fine.
But we could
Let's move it.
move it up.
We just got to keep it, depending on the schedule, we have to keep it kind of tight to the 10:15 so we can get the fire department.
Excuse me, Adam, could you move the microphone closer to you?
Is that better?
Yeah, way better. Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment? Marshall?
Thank you. Marshall Paulson, and I just had a brief question. Being on the village water system, and we know there was a watch your water usage a few days ago. I'm just wondering if there's any update on the status of that? And was,
Yeah, no, good question.
thank you.
Yeah, so we put the notice out because on Wednesday night, the tank didn't top off by pumping from the well on Wednesday night, as it usually would. So the water and sewer superintendent, Steve Cody, wanted to put out a conservation notice to make sure that it would be refilling over the next few days, or if he could find a reason for why it didn't refill. He wasn't able to find a reason why it didn't refill. He checked the well depth. It seems to be about normal. It has refilled correctly on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, and it's refilling right now. So it seems like it's operating correctly. I anticipate tomorrow we'll put out a notice to that effect that it's been refilling fine for the last couple of nights. Conservation notices will be lifted at that point, but we will still encourage people to use caution and conserve water because we are still in the drought. But right now it seems like it's returning to normal.
Thank you.
Gene can't hear.
Any other public comment?
Hold on 1 second. We just got a note. Gene Haskins can't hear us. Anybody else online having trouble hearing us?
Gene, can you not hear any of us or just Josh?
I can hear you, no problem.
You're fine.
Maybe it's Gene. Is your speaker turned up? Maybe she
I don't think she can hear you.
can hear me right now.
Gee, we can't hear you.
Any other public comment? Please.
Thank you for kissing me. Hi, Elise Ferrenti. I wrote down mine. Sorry, I wasn't sure how it'd be. So in the last meeting, I was overwhelmed with the complete uncalled for disrespectful behavior that I saw Jay Fur exhibit. And it came out of nowhere towards a community member who wanted to ask a question. So I'm not the type to be like a Facebook warrior who's going to slander people. I came here to talk to him kind of face to face. Wasn't aware he was going to be out, but we'll get to it next time. So I'm concerned with the deteriorating behaviors I've witnessed over the years with Jay's communication and behaviors. And I feel like he lets his emotions take over and lash out at people. And I find it to be rude, disparaging, and dismissive. I also then notice him having to apologize to the whole community through Facebook, Front Porch Forum, or on here. And we've seen this more than once. So I think it calls into question if he's fit for duty for the role. And I understand that people get under each other's nerves, but he's an elected official and I personally do not want him representing my voice. So I'd like to recommend he steps down for the select board completely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Matt Dyer. Actually, I came to talk about the same thing. I can't believe the behavior. And 2 years ago, I actually emailed him after an incident that happened on the select board and had a back and forth and requested he resign at that point as well. And this, I know in between then and now, there's been other situations that have been similar. I don't know. I know he's resigned as chair. I don't know that that matters. I understand, you know, he has a certain role as chair, having more of a voice than others might. That being said, clearly you all have the ability to speak, and I don't see anything changing. Like Elise alluded to, he seems to be very unfit, very quick to jump down people's throats. And I agree. I don't know what the process is, whether he needs to personally step down, how that all works. I'm just expressing my personal opinion that I think I can only speak for myself, but I've kind of seen too many of these situations, so kind of done with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Jean?
I would have to agree. I'd personally like to see Jay step down from the select board entirely.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda aside from what Mary brought up already?
I just want to speak briefly, Adam. Thank you for coming and addressing this. I know it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but I appreciate your courage and coming forward and sharing your concerns. This is something that was very unpleasant that we need to work through. But again, I appreciate your candidness and coming and speaking to us.
I just have one more comment on that topic. At the end of last meeting, I made a statement, and if you haven't seen the end of that meeting, I don't have it to repeat, but I'd take a look at that as well, and just talking about how disappointed I was in the way that a woman was treated in this room and disrespected, and I still stand by that statement. So if you had a chance to watch the end of last meeting, hear what I had to say.
Thanks.
I'd only say I don't know if I'm glad or sad that I wasn't here for that meeting. So I missed it. I know several people have described it to me. And in this vein, you know, when we contemplate what we can do in the current political environment, one of the things we can do is uphold our higher principles of respect and dignity. And I think that's what this select board should aspire to, both collectively and individually. And we don't always achieve it. Clearly, Jay came very far from achieving it at the last meeting. But I would ask all of us on the select board to sort of recommit ourselves to a respectful culture and behavior.
So
Definitely.
Good. Guess we were on the additions, deletions, or modifications.
Oh, we covered moving P up following F.
Anything else you need to change, Josh? Are we good?
Okay.
I guess we're on to the main agenda. So the first agenda item, A, would be to appoint a new select board chair.
So Adam, you're chairing right now because you are currently the vice chair and we don't have a current chair. So you're opening this meeting. Would you be interested in stepping up from vice chair to chair?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put that on the back burner for a second. If you did that, then we would have an opening for vice chair. Caitlin, would you be interested in being vice chair?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if you got the memo, but you were supposed to wear a white shirt if you didn't want to be chair. So
It's like white.
Failed to get that memo, I don't know. But
So jumping ahead a little bit, assuming that you were both elected to these new positions, please feel free to reach out and ask any questions. I'm more than happy to help. I'm sure Bart is as well.
Yep.
Having said that, Adam, I would like to nominate you to ascend from vice chair to assume the chairmanship of this board. And I don't just say that throwing a dart at a dartboard. I've been very impressed with your input at these meetings. I was very impressed with your temperament at the last meeting. I don't want to go back and rehash that, but I was very impressed with your leadership at the last meeting. You said what needed to be said, and I know it was uncomfortable to say it, but I admire that you said it, and I wholeheartedly support you as chair.
So I'll second that if I don't have to repeat everything you said.
So I guess we have a motion to appoint me as chair and a second from Bart. Any discussion?
I just want to say, I hope this is a reset, and going forward, we can learn from what happened, but not forget what happened, and we can all be the better for it going forward.
I would only add, I've had that conversation with several folks that and germane to my earlier comments, that I think we should take this opportunity to reboot both practically and culturally.
Agreed.
Mhm.
And not to excuse what happened at the last meeting, but just sort of taking a step back, I think this board has become a symptom of something that's going on in a much bigger environment, and I really want to see us get away from that and go back to a more civil
I don't
tone.
disagree with that entirely, but I think that it's well within our reach to get away from that too.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
side of that, we're not. I guess calling the motion to vote.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam abstain.
Good news is you don't have to move your seat.
Now we need to, I guess the next one would be vice chair, so.
So Caitlin, as I alluded to with Adam's nomination, I was very impressed with your input and your contribution at that last meeting. But more generally, I've been very impressed with the knowledge and the skills that you bring to this board. And should you be willing to accept it, I'd be honored to nominate you as vice chair.
As Bart, I will second that.
Motion from David and a second from Bard. Any discussion? Be excited to have you as vice chair.
I'd just say that in the note of pressing the reset button, that I would also like this to be a time to make sure that we know that everyone is welcome, and that if discussions go in the way that they have, I'm not scared to hear other opinions, and I really appreciate a good discussion as long as we're respectful. And just because I don't agree with everything that everyone else says doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation and hear each other out. So
Exactly.
So I just add, and I wasn't going to do this, but it's an example of behaving like everybody's welcome here versus putting a sign that says everybody's welcome here.
Exactly.
And I think it behooves us to not just put up signs, but to walk the walk as best we can.
I often tell people that work for me, mistakes happen. And there's a huge difference between excusing a mistake in explaining a mistake. And I've had employees make some really bad mistakes, but they tell me what they've learned and they never make that mistake again. And they're a better employee for it. So I would hope that this board takes the mistakes that were made as a lesson and we learn from that and move on. And not make those mistakes again. That's all I'm gonna say.
We'll make new mistakes.
Exactly. Challenge accepted.
The motion from David to appoint Caitlin as vice chair and then a second from Bard. On the motion to a vote.
Bard, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin abstain.
Adam, aye.
Awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Wait, on that, in the spirit of reset, it's like a few tweaks I would like to make or kind of expectations. I think the big one is going to be trying to really ensure that everyone in the audience and online has an opportunity to speak before we circle back people. I think that's been lost a little bit and caused some frustration among people. Been expressed kind of in between meetings to me. And the other one is if it turns into a big thing, I know we can have really long agendas sometimes, which makes it impossible for us to really consider the things as deeply as they need to be. So I'd like to, if needed, we can get a timer going for 2 minutes per person and really kind of try to keep this closer to the agenda timeline. I know personally, I don't make any good decisions after 10 p.m. That number can change. I don't know. Maybe it's a sliding scale from 9 to 10 too. So try to keep the agendas to like the 9:30 timeline and not the 11:30 midnight we had last year. That'd be great. And then the last one is after we have a motion and a second, that discussion should be among select board members only, unless there's a specific reason to call out a member of the public. So really emphasize, try to get your points in on the topic before we have a motion on the table. Just to, again, in the effort not to silence anyone, but to try to keep everything concise. And if we can't hash something out in the allotted time, doesn't mean we need to make a knee-jerk reaction. We can always push something to another meeting and reconsider. So the goal isn't to try to make snap decisions and not hear everyone. It's just to try to keep things concise and keep us making forward progress slowly, incrementally. Does that sound reasonable to everyone? I mean, obviously, this is up for, we can change it if it doesn't work. So, Mary?
You sound like a boss. Thank you.
Didn't say good boss though. Is there such a thing?
I wouldn't have said it if it wasn't a good boss. Thank you.
Okay. On to the next agenda item. I guess a reminder of upcoming budget meetings. So we have one on Wednesday, October 22nd, Monday, November 10th, and Monday, December 8th. Those all get held here. Those are, both on the second Mondays of the month, except for the Wednesday one. So we're trying to fill in our off Mondays, and then we might have more meetings as needed. Anything else you need to add to that, Judge?
Nope, covered it.
Item C, consideration of closing Esplanade Street, Pleasant Street, Tilden Ave, and Baker Street for Halloween.
It takes two people to come up.
So, Mr. Chair,
For
before our speakers speak, I just want it noted for the record that this board has been bribed in cider donuts, and we really appreciate that.
They weren't warm, so it's not a.
Okay,
Thank you, Marshall.
you're welcome. I'm Marshall Paulson, representing Pleasant Street and Esplanade Street this evening.
And Morgan Wolliver representing Tilden, Baker, and this is the beginning of Millet.
And for the record, these donuts are not a bribe, as I am fond of saying, they are features of coming attractions, previews of coming attractions.
And they're good.
In light of trying to keep within 5 minutes, a request for Pleasant and Esplanade Street is same as we've done for a number of years, to ask to close the street to vehicle traffic from the hours of 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. On Halloween night for the purposes of safety for the children. I'm not looking to see any difference in what we would ask to do as we've done other years. And the other note I would just like to reinforce is one lane is always open for emergency vehicles, both municipally or if people need to get in or out of the street.
And I'm sitting for Ann Nauman. Ann was, who lives on Tilden Baker, went around and canvassed a lot of the community, and this is the first year that this is requested, that the street Baker get blocked off, and then it's actually the corner of Millet and Tilden be blocked off. I don't think it's till 9 o'clock, or both of them till 9?
Was it 9 or 8 o'clock that we done in the past?
We did 4 to 9. and
Okay,
about
I think that-
mostly by
Yes,
8
sir. Okay.
I-
And the reason we said at the top of Tilden or Millet is people can park, actually, there's a large parking area, so parents, if they want to, can park there and then walk Tilden and Baker.
The 4 to 9 period, I do keep records of number of people and when they come for a number of years now, and we've had pretty good data that we, to the very least, 8 o'clock is preferable. This year Halloween is a Friday night. Historically, that tends to bump out a little bit later. So for permission to have the street closed until 9 would be prudent. However, when things settle down, I can speak only to Pleasant Street on this. It tends to stop very abruptly whenever that time is, and then we go ahead and take the road closed sign down. The other thing I would notice, we, in years past, or at one point, I was asked to put a sign up at the corner of Pleasant Street announcing that the street would be closed some weeks before Halloween. I can continue to do that if the select board asks us to. I don't have a provisions for the Tilden Baker Street or Esplanade Street. So I just ask if that is something that I should do. It was something that was requested by a police chief, a couple of chiefs, 3 chiefs ago, I think.
I mean, personally, I've been in town and it doesn't seem to be an issue. It's very obvious when the street is closed. Street is closed informally by obstructions anyway, so it's just formalizing. I don't think that's necessary personally.
Yeah, I don't see the need for it.
No. That's fine. I'm assuming that, but I'd like a school bus to get through if they need to. I'm just thinking of like after school programs and stuff coming through at like 4-ish.
Well, I don't know why they couldn't. The answer is yes. One lane on Pleasant Street and Esplanade, as we have done this, has been wide open. So if the folks need to get to the end of, the facility at the end of Esplanade, the street's open for that.
Okay.
And historically, when we first started doing this request to close the street, I did go through and speak to our rescue, fire, and police, and they were found that they were comfortable with the structures, how we're doing it.
Great.
I was just gonna say similarly, with the single lane, there are not that many houses on Baker Tilden, but I know some people return from commuting from work after 4 o'clock, so we should probably be clear, that they can go park at their house. They're just encouraged to drive very slowly, slower than they usually drive. I say that as a resident of Tilden.
Great.
Anything else?
This is Caitlin. I move to close Esplanade, Pleasant Street, Tilden Ave, and Baker Street on October 31st, 2025, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. to allow for trick or treating, with the requirement that all streets be open for first responder vehicles and vehicles of residents who live on the streets, and that Esplanade Street be open for vehicles that need to access the wastewater treatment facility.
This is David. I will second.
I have a motion from Caitlin and a discussion.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
One last note, if I may just take a moment, something that you may see in town. We are, I'm working on a project to enhance the phenomena that I've seen that, and as a person inside the village, I've been grateful for this. There are folks outside the village that have felt compelled to participate in Halloween in a way of donating candy to the folks in the village. And speaking as one member of the village, we're very grateful for this. I am setting up a little bit of a more formalized opportunity to do that. There will be collection containers here in the town center and also at the market and maybe at the library. And I would just say, to the degree that that very nice tradition continues, on behalf of all the folks in the village, we're grateful for the help, and we love seeing all the trick-or-treaters come into our village center. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Item D, consideration of appointing an acting zoning administrative officer and E911 coordinator.
So as many of you know, our zoning administrative officer left the town of Richmond this spring. After a search, we have hired a new person for that position, Dante Denault, and we would like to appoint him acting zoning administrative officer for a sort of an interim learning period of time. Keith Oborn, the director of planning and zoning, is currently the acting zoning administrative officer and would serve in that role. No, sorry, he's currently the zoning administrative officer and continue to serve in that role until we're satisfied that Dante has fully learned the ropes of the position, and then we'll probably come back in a few months' time to appoint Dante as the zoning administrative officer. We also want to appoint him as the E911 coordinator, which helps make sure that the town is in compliance with E911 laws. Most specifically, or what I've seen him do the most is verifying new names for roads to make sure that they're compatible with E911. Keith, do you have anything to add to that, or did I cover it? Okay.
I think you're spot on.
Okay, great.
Any discussion? Yeah. I guess one thing that stood out to me is I didn't realize this. Once Keith is no longer the acting zoning administrative officer and Dante is through a kind of probationary period of sorts, there's no statutory authority for Keith to change anything that Dante decides. So that's why we're having this kind of ramp up to create
That is
some semblance of probation, correct?
Yep.
Great. Anything? Motion?
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to appoint Dante Denault as the acting zoning administrative officer and the E911 coordinator for the town of Richmond.
Is Bart, I'll second?
Motion by David, second by Bard. More discussion?
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye. Consideration of waiving the fee and appointing a designated representative for MMCTV's conditional use review application to the Development Review Board for an antenna at the town center. Josh, do you wanna?
Well, maybe Angelica, you want to speak to it?
Great.
You want me to, I can give the summary if that's easier.
I hate to ask if Keith wants to speak about it, but yeah, I will start to speak about it. Hello. So as you may recall, a few years ago, we were starting to work on applying for an FCC license for a community radio station, which is non-commercial, and they open a window every so often. And we got the license, and we have till 2027 to build it. And we've been speaking to Keith over in the DRB about what needs to happen for that to go up in Richmond, and there needs to be a conditional use review, right, Keith?
That is correct, yes.
And just in discussing, because the community radio station is going to be for, to enhance the civic life for people to make their own shows and podcasts. And we already have a lot of volunteer interest in people doing things. But another part of that will be emergency response. And actually, the state of Vermont last year in their legislation passed a bill to fund community radio stations, including us, one in Jericho, Underhill, Richmond. Richmond is going to benefit the most because it's a low power FM radio station, so it reaches 3.5 miles or more, depending on mountains and whatever else is in the way. So in speaking to Keith, we were kind of hoping, because we're hopefully going to be really helping out the community with emergency response and other things, that we would not have to pay the fee for the conditional use review.
I would just add that, yes, Angelica alluded to this, that this is a civic betterment issue here too. And tacked onto that is the emergency aspect of it. And that's what really triggered I requested of MMCTV to request this fee waiver. So that's the long and the short of it.
And the second half of this is to appoint me as the designated representative for the town so I can sign the application of the DOB. Because it's going to be on town property, but applied for by MMCTV for the antenna.
Have anything? Questions? What kind of content can we expect out of this FM station?
Well, thank you.
Oh,
You go here. What kind of content can we expect? Just out of
Oh,
curiosity.
I guess I got cut off. Well, it's up to whatever people want to make. Actually, Mary Hool in
Cool.
the room has just started a podcast. And there it could be like radio shows. We have a lot of interest in radio shows, and people have been dropping off their vinyl records. And we've heard, and we did a survey, and we've just heard very clearly that people want local, like very local. Like everybody loves Vermont Public. I know I listen to them nonstop, but they want even more local. And for instance, in Jericho, the select board members are taking a stab at making their own podcasts. So maybe be inspired over in Richmond to do the same thing. And we've had kids interested, so kind of a little bit of everything. But we have also been speaking to the emergency response folks from the state of Vermont about, training public to know that in the case of an emergency, they could tune in on their car radio if there's no power, for instance, to hear which roads are open and closed. So it's kind of just up to the public. People want to be listening to a real human being talking about very local things and music, a huge range of music. And since we have the stage for a second here, we would love if anybody knows about that antenna that's attached to the chimney, exactly what it's doing and who's using it, to contact the town and us. There was just different discussions of who was previously using the antenna that's attached to the chimney. And we were curious because we were interested in a spot there or very close by, just to make sure there was no interference.
I know you're just starting and looking to get recognition and publicity, and I also know that Thanksgiving is coming up, so being a new startup radio station, I just advise against hiring a helicopter and doing a live turkey drop for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're actually launching the station first as an online radio station, and hopefully all the volunteers will figure everything out before the antenna goes up, and it goes out on FM radio at 100.5 FM.
Nice. This is Caitlin. I move to waive the fee of $360 and appoint town manager Josh Arneson as the designated representative for MMCTV's conditional use review application to the Development Review Board for an antenna at the town center.
Adam, this is David. I'll second.
Motion from Caitlin and a second from David. Any discussion?
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye. So I guess the next item is consideration of approving the display of signs in the town right of way for upcoming Huntington Valley Arts events.
yeah, so this sort of builds on the conversation we had a few select board meetings ago about the select board approving signs on town property in the town right of way. It's something we haven't done a really good job of the past number of years. And Judy Bush is here representing Huntington Valley Arts, with a request to put up some signs in the right of way to promote a few events coming up this fall. So Judy, I'll turn it over to you.
I think you have most of the information in front of you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So just to recap, so the Huntington Valley Arts event, there's one on October 18th, 2025. There's also two First Friday events, one on November 7th and one on December 5th. And Huntington Valley Arts is an organization that supports artists.
Don't confuse it with Huntington Valley Arts. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
About 1990 was founded, and it serves the whole Huntington River Valley, and a little bit more, anybody sort of neighborly in that direction. And these are all events that we have had in the past, so it's nothing new, but we want to get your approval.
Any questions? Sounds like these signs have, similar signs have gone up, and we've just realized that we should have been approving the whole time. So the change is that we are approving them, not that.
Right.
There's no other changes.
Nope.
Mary?
Yeah, very cool. Is it gonna be, like a folding sign? Is it gonna be up for a longer period of time?
They'll go up,
Size matters.
the size is the long. I gave you 18 by 24 or
18
something,
by 24, and so they would go,
and they're gonna go up, the event, which is on the 18th, we will put them up right away. We've always put those up 2 weeks before. The first Friday events, we put up the Saturday so that the Friday doesn't get confused. So those go up just a week before. They come down either that night or the next morning, depending upon where they are, probably more.
great.
Thank you.
Oh, Jean?
Jean Haskins. So I think my question was pretty much answered, but my question was going to be, when do the signs go up and when do they come down? So when signs are approved to be put out, not only should we have restrictions on the size of them, but the amount of time that they're actually out there, and to make sure that they are removed in a timely fashion.
Great, thank you. Anyone?
I just observed the motion says for 2 weeks prior to each event. It is silent though on when they come down. We might want to insert something that says and removed the day after the event. 48 hours.
72 hours. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll work on it. I move to approve the display of 18 by 24 yard signs promoting the Huntington Valley Arts events on October 18th, 2025, and the Huntington Valley Arts First Friday events on November 7th, 2025, and December 5th, 2025, for 2 weeks prior to each event and up to 48 hours after each event at the following locations: on the Round Church Green at the intersection of Huntington Road and Cochrane Road, at the intersection of Huntington Road and Heinsberg Road, at the intersection of Dugway Road and Huntington Road, at the intersection of West White Hill and Cochrane Road, and at the intersection of Route 2 and Cochrane Road, and perhaps add that it would be, the signs will be in the public right of way,
Adam,
as
this is
opposed to
David.
far off into private property.
I'll second.
Barry, and a second from David. Any discussion? I'll get to a vote.
Bart, aye.
Oh, David,
Aye.
Adam, aye.
just kicked
Thank you
me.
very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Judy.
Next we have a review of the Fays Corner safety
No.
audit.
No,
Moving P up.
Okay, you're moving. Yeah, right. So it's keeping track of this, huh? Next, we do not have that. Next, we have an update on developing a sign policy and discussion of a plan for responding to requests to display signs of the town center.
I like to see. Mary Hool. The fact that Keith Oborn is still on is a good thing. The sign policy needs to, I understand the sign out front, I get it. But in general, sign policy is done by zoning. It is not done by the select board. You obviously have an opinion on these kinds of things, but you're kind of putting the cart before the horse if you make it a select board issue. It has to be an issue that goes to zoning. You can't, supersede the authority of the planning commission and the zoning document. I think it's necessary to go with what we already have. And there's a lot of signs if you drive around that are currently in the right of way. And any sign that is in the right of way is subject to town control and is subject to a violation. It also probably should have permission. So unless folks are putting the signs out there and pay a fee to the town for an approval through the zoning department, I think that the whole thing needs to go through zoning rather than, the select board obviously has input for this, but you're putting the cart before the horse. If the select board decides sign policy, it really needs to go where it is prudent where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go through the zoning folks. It's supposed to be part of the planning document. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I guess, Mary's correct that there's a lot that, where our zoning, any information about where signs can and can't go does currently live in the zoning regulations. I think the question came up about, should there be a policy for select board speech or government speech related to the Black Lives Matter, all are welcome here sign that went up. So there were some questions from the board about, well, should we have a policy or not? We know it's covered in zoning, but should there be more about these types of signs that aren't covered in zoning, and what should select board's role be in that? So did pose it to our attorney initially. He thought, well, you guys are passing resolutions when you want to do one of these signs, you're probably covered with that. You don't necessarily need a separate policy because all of the mechanical things, like Mary said, are covered under zoning. But then I shared with him that we've been getting some additional requests, such as the event signs. And we also had another request for basically a government speech sign. At that point, he said, well, you guys seem to be getting a lot of requests. You might want to consider a policy of some sort and also discuss how you want to handle requests from the public for signs that aren't event oriented or campaign oriented.
And so to that point and to Mary's point, it sounds like if we did have a sign policy, that would be zoning committee that would be framing that policy out. Is that?
I think it might be a little different because zoning really covers, what signs can be, where they can be, how long they can be up for. What I think you guys might be looking at is, what types of signs do you want to allow on town property outside of event signage, like you just approved? That's fairly routine. It's when you want to get to a more of a message sign like we have with Black Lives Matter, all welfare signs that you want to make sure it, I think, conforms to zoning, but also, as Keith has mentioned, government property is somewhat exempt from zoning, hence the need for no permit for the current sign that's out front.
I guess one of the things that sticks with me is that we keep framing this as though we're approving signs to go out there, and realistically, we should be looking at it as us putting signs out as the select board. So when we frame it that way, it's a much different discussion, I think more accurate. So if someone wants us to put a sign out, the way to do that would not be to put it on the agenda, because they don't get the sign out request us to do it. If anything, you'll need to convince us that that's something we want to say as a select board. Does that make sense? So if you can convince us that it's something we want to say, then we will put the sign out. So I think that framing this, it needs to be framed a little bit differently, that for it to be true government speech on behalf of the select board needs to choose to put that speech out there, not approve someone else putting that speech out there.
Gotcha.
Pretty small, but I think an important distinction. I don't know the history of all that. So I guess if I look backwards, that's kind of how I view it looking forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so it in that case, just says on how people would approach that, they'd come during public comment, voice their requests or voice their opinion on signs that we might want to adopt, and then it wouldn't be on the meeting agenda. But doesn't include event signs. That's separate because those are not on town property technically.
Well,
Or is that the same thing?
but they're in the right of way, and I think event signs, and Keith, I think those are pretty much allowed via zoning because they're an event kind of directional sign. They're not anything that's permanent kind of thing. Yeah, permanent. That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's advertisement is the main thing. That's what you look at in the zoning regs.
So this is Bard Keith, a follow-up question. Does zoning speak to the number, location and duration? So here's my ludicrous example. I want to put 40 event signs for the same event on the town lawn for 6 months.
You have the right to approve that as the board, as it is currently written.
And so your point that the zoning really comes through the select board anyway for approval?
So you're asking not as you as a select board member, but if you were a member of the community who.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, that I'm talking about John Q. Public.
maybe I'm missing the question here, but if you want to put 40 signs, it still has to go through the select board, that regardless.
Okay.
So unless I'm missing something, that it still has to go through the select board. You are the ultimate authority on town
So
property.
that's the town lawn, and let me refer to the topic we just discussed. What if somebody wanted to put, they'll just show up and put signs for their event on various corners around town? Can people just do that under current zoning within the
No.
town? Way?
I would think not, no. Well, you don't have an internal policy, so I think that is bringing this full circle to the need for one.
Right. Hence the question. Okay, thank you.
Anything in the right of way or on town property, technically the select board's the one, they're the only body that can approve those types of signs as currently written in zoning. And you can put the 2-week limit on it like you did tonight for the event signs. I think if somebody wanted to put a sign on their lawn that was outside of the right of way, then different rules apply, right, Keith? Is that when there's a 2-week maximum for an event sign outside of the right?
For an event sign, that is correct. Yeah, not on town property.
Right.
Mary?
Right. Concord ski sale is one that's typical and, they show up and then they go away, but, because they cost money, Cochran's go out there, set them up. I objected to South Burlington ski sale in this area because I think Cochran should rule in this area. And the current zoning says 1 sign per lot. So your, suggestion of 40 signs on the front lawn, that's 41 signs too many. But it's 1 sign per lot, and that's a zoning issue.
Right.
Then we get back to the fact that the government property is exempt from the zoning, and that's why we're allowed to have more than 1 sign on the town lot. Am I saying that correctly, Keith? Because
That's
there's
correct.
that's why we don't need the permit for a permanent sign either.
So that'd be private property outside of the town.
Then those rules apply. But when it's town property or inside the right of way, there's exemptions for the select board for those signs. Yeah, Keith and I, we need a flow chart of some sort for this.
Yeah.
We need a policy about various types of signs placed not by the select board, but requested by the anywhere on town property in the right of way. And then we need a separate discussion about whether we would continue to approve all of these by the select board, or we want to push some portion or all decision-making power onto the zoning administrator or some zoning person, right? I mean, would it be unreasonable to have there be some process for you to approve some magnitude of signs for an event without coming to the select board on town property? For example, the Cochrane ski sale. Or is that something that by statute needs to be in front of the select board and we can't change the policy or the zoning?
I mean, it's a pretty broad statement in the zoning regulations. It just says that you are exempt from the sign law. It doesn't, and then it just leaves it at that. You have an internal policy that you've been following in the past that has not been codified. So my suggestion as your zoning administrator would be to not put any town property signage or the like into the zoning document. I think you should have a separate ordinance or a separate policy that you, as the select board, follow for time immemorial. Obviously it'd be a living document, you could update it over time, but it would become an administrative nightmare, quite honestly, with the amount of roads that you have and we have and all the buildings, all the property that we own. It really would be an administrative nightmare. So I look at the town, that's all one parcel. The town's parcels are like basically one parcel. I don't know. It's kind of hard to get your mind wrapped around that. With 1 sign for 370 miles of road. I don't think that's administratively feasible.
And I think that our current zoning is written that says, for any sign to be located within the public road or highway right of way, including public sidewalks, the Richmond Selectboard must issue written approval with any attached conditions prior to placement of the sign. So that's where I think we get to anything in the right of way or on town property. It comes to the select board as it did this evening.
So I guess I don't see the issue here then. If we
Well, I think we're following a proper policy right now, as we discovered a couple weeks ago, like, hey, we haven't been doing this, so. Starting with Huntington Valley Arts, we're following that proper policy. We asked conference to do the same, and Radiate's been told next time they want to butt signs to follow that policy. So I think that seems to work fine. I think where it comes into play is, things that are non-event, so more permanent signs, as Mary said, like the sign at the front of the town center line right now. How do you want to, I guess you talked about handling future requests by come during public comment, if the board wants to take it up in future agenda, someone sort of sponsored it from the select.
I would say that there shouldn't be future requests. There's not a request to put a sign out. There is you can come and try to convince us that we have an opinion we want to put out there. I think that's the important distinction. Is like when you come here, you want to put a government speech sign out, not an event sign out. Probably. The answer is no, you don't get to do that. What we can do is convince us that we want to do it.
Okay.
You can definitely do that. And so people were able to convince us, or the board, maybe not. We're able to convince the board as a living entity over the years that we wanted to put a BLM sign out. And then that sign has changed, the messaging has changed and morphed as as the whole topic has changed. But basically, we've been convinced as a board, and some board has been convinced repeatedly that we want to do that. So it's not that someone else put that sign out, it's that we decided, oh, we want to do that. So I think that's the policy, is that you would need to come convince us that we want to do it. Right, so that's kind of the answer is, well, no, you can't put a sign out, but you can contact your select board members in public comment or privately, and you can convince them that they want to do it, and that is 100% acceptable. And that's kind of beauty of small towns. You can find us and convince us of things. That makes sense, Daryl? Yeah, just to kind of show that it is to truly be government speech. It's not a request from the public. It's coming from us.
Makes sense.
Go ahead.
I agree with that part. The part that gets me is the event signs. And I don't think it should be taking up your time, and I don't think it should be taking up a lot of Josh's time. If the Friday Food Affair is gonna put up a sign every Friday, and if Huntington Valley Arts is gonna have more signs, and Radiate has signs, and there are events happening in Cochrane, Skisa. And there should be a way that it doesn't take your time up. That's all I think.
Kind of agree with that. Keith, is there a way, I know you had said it is administratively would be a nightmare to administer all these signs, with event signs being a definite beginning and end. And was that something we could, for lack of a better term, pawn off on you?
I'd have to see the language that you come up with. I mean, a lot of this is driven by safety also. So I just want to be sure that folks know that that's really the impetus here, is to have these rules set down. I need to make sure that the sight lines are okay for when you're coming in. I need to know how big the sign is, where the location is, and all that. And we're kind of doing that right now.
Okay.
But there's nothing that's codified with that regard.
So I think we would need to change zoning regulations, because right now it says that the select board has to approve anything in the right of way. So if we're gonna stray from that, I think we'd have to change those regulations to allow somebody else to approve that. Another way to not take up a lot of time, to Judy's point, is we could probably also create a fairly simple form.
That's more like liquor licenses thing. We screw right through those.
Yeah. We just have a form about, your event sign, it can be this size, here's some common intersections, what's your event? They fill the form out, we put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
To look at it, it takes a few minutes. And then we're sticking to the letter of the law and zoning regulations.
Makes sense. Mary had something.
Yeah, I've got a collection of seamless gutter signs. They make good insulating boards. The Richard Tom folks typically have a boatload of signs. So to Judy's point, I think it's a good idea, maybe you just initiate a form and one and done, but they don't always take them down so fast. But if anybody needs a seamless gutter sign, let me know.
Same here. I got a few of them too, Mary. We should compare notes.
Marshall?
Hi, Marshall Paulson, and I'll speak now on behalf of Friday Food Affair, which for the last couple of years, I would put out a sign the Monday before a dinner for that Friday night, and I picked that sign up that Friday night after dinner. And I'm very conscientious about this. And I had signs, one of them on the over by the round church. And partway through the season last year, I stopped putting that sign there and ended up it ended up on a person's private yard, just in respect and appreciation for the conversation we're having now. So I would like to graciously offer Friday Food Affair as a model of attempting a format for you to perhaps approach whatever venue, to ask a request to do that with a sign.
Marshall's volunteering to do the sign stuff. Did you hear him say that?
There's a lot of words for such a word on. Thank you.
I'll take my donuts back.
Just try.
But from this conversation, is that something that I perhaps should ask to get on a very brief agenda item for a select board meeting for a request of that nature?
For your Friday Food Affair signs?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
Just on the round church.
In the right of way of the round church.
That's correct.
Yeah, we'll put that up, and I think you can request for the next like 10 Friday Food Affairs.
I have all the dates,
Yeah.
exact dates from now through May.
I'll try to make a form you can submit. When's the next, is it next Friday, the first one?
17.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes.
October 17th, the week of this Friday is our first of our 2025-26.
We're doing the select board, aren't we?
All right, I think we gotta
Yeah, I'll follow up with Marshall, we can do
go
that.
form.
Yeah, we'll go
Great.
form and, yep.
So, some hopscotch back from P to G. A review of the Fays Corner safety audit.
So we have Jason Shuris from CCRPC, who put together the audit. So he'll join us to walk us through the Fays Corner safety audit. And we, so just as a little background, Fays Corner's come up a few times before the select board is one of the spots in town that we would like to see improved for traffic control. We reached out to CCRPC and they said that they could do a safety audit, which is not a huge scope. So there's not an engineering report or study on this, but there are some very good suggestions that Jason and his team worked on for us.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Does everybody have hopefully everybody has a copy of it?
I can share it. Would that be helpful?
Perhaps, I guess I'd defer.
I have one pulled up, but
Yeah.
it'd be good to
Okay.
put on the screen.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, while you do that, I guess I'll get going maybe with just some background.
Right now, sure, go ahead.
Sure. I think as Josh mentioned, we were asked to take a look at this intersection and we assembled a small group of individuals. We had some representatives from fire, police and public works that, we actually met here to kind of talk about the intersection for a little bit and then went out into the field to take a look at it. It was the subject of an older safety audit back in 2004. And so the current signage and arrangement of the intersection has been pretty consistent since the recommendations from the 2004 audit were implemented. I think those were finalized within a few years following the audit, just based on the records that we were able to pull up. But we went out there and, took another look at things and really don't have a whole lot in terms of crash data out there. There is a general concern that crashes are underreported, but I think we found instances of maybe 4 reported crashes during about a 14-year time frame. So not a lot to go off of there in terms of making concrete assessment that there is a true safety problem here. Nonetheless, we do know there's lots of complaints about the intersection. And it sounds like there might be a fair amount of vehicles that go off the road that just don't get reported. So just have some recommendations in here to kind of what I think maybe increase the visibility of signs. Mostly, I think the biggest things are really cutting back some of the brush that's overgrown in the area. You'll see in the report, some of the signs are completely obstructed by overgrown brush, particularly these 2 chevron signs that you see on the left there. Those, I think I have a different photo somewhere in here that showcases how you can't see those. I think it might be, this one. So yeah, trimming out brush, consolidating some signs where applicable. I think some signs could actually be removed. And if you are interested in those, I think it would increase the visibility of the signs themselves by cutting back the brush and improving the safety of the intersection. There was, I think, a few, yeah, if you go down, sorry, Josh. Yeah, can you scroll down? That's okay. Yeah, right there. Sorry, go up. Yeah. This would be 2 new signs. I'm just recommending that there are 2 chevron signs here, but they're only one direction of the roadway, and you could install a bracket so that it applies both directions just to help people in both directions navigating the curve. And then also, as part of the audit, we talked about some possible reconfiguration options of the intersection. So I kind of did just kind of a brief assessment of 2 options. One would be converting the intersection to a more traditional 2-way stop approach, where opposing approaches have stop signs versus currently it's the 2 approaches next to each other. East Hill Road and Kenyon Road both have stop signs on them. It's quite similar to your other intersection in town, Cochrane Bridge, Huntington, Thompson, again, well. So yeah, quite similar to that, obviously far less traffic that goes through it. But took a look at perhaps, reorienting the stop signs to this sort of configuration. I don't like this. I don't feel comfortable with it. I wouldn't recommend pursuing it any further. I had concerns about East Hill Road. Right now they stop. I could really foresee cars just kind of going through that intersection at a good clip. I actually witnessed a car from Heinsberg Road to go up East Hill Road. They were clearly familiar with the intersection. They raced through there quite quickly. I find it hard to believe they weren't the only one. They're not the only ones doing that. And it kind of made me think about maybe some of those concerns or calls that you're hearing are well justified. And the other one I looked at was converting this to an all-way stop. I do think this is a viable option. Long term, it'd be great to try to align Kenyon and the northbound Heinsberg Road approaches to make it a more traditional 4-way intersection, but I don't think that should preclude you from doing this in the near term if you should choose to do so. I don't feel strongly that this needs to happen immediately.
The biggest problem for me is if you're here coming off Kenyon and you want to turn left on the Heinsberg Road, but the vegetation here, you cannot see if there's a car coming. So I hate to say it, but the safest thing to do is slow down, but not come to a complete stop. If it looks clear, gun it. Because what's happened to me a couple of times since I've stopped and looked, nope, I don't think anybody's coming, and then I start to pull out and the car is flying around the corner.
I think the recommendations for clearing out the brush in that corner would go a long way into helping that situation. But yeah, I agree. That is one of the issues there.
Yeah, it's not so bad in stick season. You can sort of see through the twigs, but with the leaves, you just can't see it.
Yeah, I actually, I think you're aware or know my colleague Cy, he's been before you for various speed recommendations, and we actually went back out to measure some sight lines maybe a few months after the actual safety audit when it was stick season. And yeah, I agree. It really opened things up quite a bit and kind of gave you a preview for what it could be like if the brush was, cut back and maintained. But back to this, like I said, I don't feel like you need to do this immediately. There's not a huge compelling reason. With that said, like it is an odd intersection in terms of the way the stop signs are there, and there's a slight need to control some left turn conflicts. It sounds like a Heinsberg Road northbound, if they're trying to turn left up East Hill Road, can be a little difficult and challenging with other traffic on Heinsberg Road.
The other thing that I've come across, which is weird, I have to actually explain it, is if you're coming down Canyon Road and stop here, and there's a car stopped at East Hill Road. Well, they were stopped when I got here, so I would assume that they would go, but they're not going. So I don't know if they're waiting for me or if they're waiting for traffic that I can't see. And the 2 of us do this.
Yeah. I think it just speaks to the unconventional nature of the stop controls. Yeah, so with some signage changes and brush cutting, I do think that's a viable option.
Great.
Those are the high points.
Thank you.
The other thing that should be mentioned, which isn't really directly connected with this intersection, but the concrete bridge that's right here
Mhm.
is in dire need of replacement, so that should just be on our radar.
So how do we want to make decisions? Do we defer to Pete to come with a plan based on this, or do we want to give guidance? What do you suggest?
There's some signage suggestions in the report. I think if you want to look at the stop sign options. Well, I think anything, we should not hear from Pete. He's also on the call. I think the stop sign options would be the most drastic. I mean, some of the stuff as far as the brush cutting, consolidating the traffic signs as they are now, I think to me seems like a pretty good idea, but let's also.
Yeah, I think the brush cutting is a priority, and it's also low hanging fruit. I mean, it's done.
The stop changes, I think, would be a big learning curve for
Yeah,
for the public.
Lots of people.
Yeah, and I think we would want to do a lot more outreach before we made a change.
Agreed.
We do a stop sign here too. We have like the right hand weird corner and the left hand one, and they cancel out. You can't just go through one, so we'd have to change the other one too.
Yeah.
Pete, what do you have?
First question is, has the town of Richmond requested a speed study be done in this section of road?
So they're doing a speed study right now of Hinesburg Road.
So I can give you my 2 cents once again. These incidents and these cars going off, this happens in the winter months when there's no vegetation. The people that live in this area can attest to what I'm about to say. Speed is the issue in this area. People are coming from Hinesburg at 50 plus miles an hour, entering this 90-degree corner that has a, placarded 15-mile-an-hour curve sign on it. And I agree, signs help, but if we can't slow that speed down in this area, I think these problems are never going to go away. And I look at this as a very compact, highly residential area. You've got about a quarter of a mile, a lot of houses and a lot of driveways in one area. And I think that there needs to be a speed zone here. I think it needs to get down to 25 through this area. And when it hits that speed, then we can implement some traffic calming devices, because I really think, unfortunately, I hate to say this, and I never was a fan of speed bumps or speed humps, but they make you slow down. They put you down to 25 miles an hour. And I really think before you enter that right-hand curve on Hinesburg Road with Kenyon Road in front of you, you need to have some kind of traffic calming device to slow you before you get to that intersection. That's why I'm very curious to see what the speed study will show. So I agree with the vegetation cut, and I'm not making excuses, but our mower has been destroyed for 2 months, and we will go out there by hand and get that stuff opened back up. Signs will help, but they will not solve the crash problems here. They will definitely not solve the speeding problems. And it's both directions from this intersection. It's going towards Hinesburg from the intersection, and it's coming into Kenyon Road from Hinesburg. It's a high rate of speed going through here from basically Mansfield Way all the way down to this intersection. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on this.
And the first house on Canyon has been hit so many times. They put boulders. Right. Now the boulders get hit.
Talking about boulders in front of the house here at Kenyon.
Yeah, the Quiet's house.
Oh, this house here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of boulders through here. And then I think they put some more boulders in front of this new house.
They did, because the owner wouldn't go back to the house. He was a mess because, he was inside the house when the car came into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Quiet put those boulders on his yard because the house kept getting hit.
Okay.
Is Hinesburg Road truck route? Trucks go through there?
Lots of trucks. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just thinking back to the Cochrane Road speed table conversation where we've heard feedback that now they're hearing the
Jake brakes.
The Jake brakes. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And then that's become more disruptive than
But Pete's right. The cars coming from Hinesburg Road toward Kenyon Road are coming so fast. If there was a way to slow that traffic down, then if you're on Kenyon Road pulling out, it would be a lot safer knowing that the cars are coming the cars that you can't see are coming at slower speed.
So I know we've provided Pete's feedback on the speed to Jason and to Cy for the speed study that's currently being worked on. I know there's a lot of things that go into a speed study, and you don't always get what you want in a speed study, but you're gonna factor that in, I'm sure.
I would
So
say
just for public information, the speed on Heinsberg Road leading in and out of this curve, other than the placarded warning signs, is posted at 40 miles an hour. You take any section of town, you take Cochrane Road when you go into Jonesville, and if you went around those curves at 40 miles an hour, you'd have very similar issues. So, you know, by the Bombardier fields, if you got a 90-degree corner, you hit that at 40 miles an hour posted speed. So I really think the speed is the first step here. And I've 30 years I've been dealing with this problem here, and I've seen multiple cars in the winter months go off and land on top of those rocks at the quiets. And, you know, and the people get out, they get pulled out. I mean, these accidents aren't reported. They're more like a slide off type thing. Nobody hurt, but could have been a head-on collision, could have been a T-bone every single time because you got two other crossing roads. So it's speed. I'm dead sure of this. The problem is speed in this area.
So in an attempt to summarize, so near term, we do the vegetation pushback in a variety of locations to improve sightlines. Complete the speed study, see what the speed study can produce, to Pete's point, in terms of lowering it. And then associated with that, do we want to do physical speed calming infrastructure?
I would love to hear from some of the residents around there about what they would think about having a speed calming, and like if there was the Jake breaks that were occurring, because the noise piece and that feedback from Cochrane Road was impactful because, you know, everyone wanted that to happen. People are still flying over them, and now you're getting noise on top of that.
I will say the residents there are already complaining about Jake breaks. But I mean, do you want to hear the Jake breaks, or do you want to hear cars crashing into your house?
You're never going to make everybody happy. It's not, you know, not everybody's going to drive 15 miles an hour, and, you know, trucks are carrying heavy loads, which they have every right to. It's a class 2 highway, connects towns. This is, our roads are busy. We are a hubcap town. You know, 3/4 of all of Richmond's roads lead into another town. So we're not like Huntington's very fortunate. They have 1 or 2 through roads. Everything's a spur road with a dead end off from it. So we're going to get this kind of stuff. So it's really controlling that speed. And unfortunately, there's going to be noise that comes with it.
And if you don't know the intersection, you don't know the area, you don't know the road, you can't see that sharp corner until you're right on it. So unless you're paying attention and you see the caution 15 mile an hour, by the time you see it, you're already going way too fast.
So it sounds like we got like a few steps. We want to maintain what's there and make sure it's all visible.
Yeah, first step would be cutting back the vegetation.
And we're gonna kind of wait for the speed study and review that, and then decide what we want to do next.
Yeah.
With anywhere from nothing to speed calming measures and speed limit changes, that kind of a course of action.
That makes sense to me, and I think when I heard about the Jake breaks, I started to contemplate how far up the road do you want to lower the speed limit, you know, and maybe want to pick a spot where, in theory, there's fewer houses to be annoyed by Jake breaks.
And if they're already hearing it, can we actually help with that problem by putting it back further, and like what's the other housing look like there?
Yeah. Because people are already complaining about the Jake breaks further down Heinsberg Road or this intersection.
Much further.
Getting back to the speed study, we did conduct a speed study in 2022, which recommended lowering the speed limit there. So it'll be interesting to see what our data has shown in terms of how effective that 5 mile an hour, I think, reduction was or has been. I would be surprised if Cy came to the conclusion that of a recommendation of 25 miles in this area without speed humps. So I think they would really need to be complementary. if you put those in, we'd feel comfortable recommending that speed. Otherwise, I just don't know if I see people obeying that speed limit.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm leaning at, and I've got a whole idea of where the 25 zone should start and end, and where speed tables or humps should be placed. But we can't do any traffic calming measures, physical measures in the roadway until it's into a 25 zone. So we're kind of have to wait for that speed study to get done.
Okay, I think we can take that into account, and describe the situation. If the town were to install speed stumps, we would feel comfortable recommending X as a speed limit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have
Yeah.
to be the other way, though. We would need a lower speed limit to install speed humps, because we can't
Right.
install speed humps on a 40-mile-an-hour road.
I think they would need to come at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
And currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to get a little feedback from the residents that live there. Just if it's possible, just to pick out, 15, 20 people that live all around that curve. And as you head up to maybe Rocky Road or Mansfield Way, get their input, what they see it every single day.
Yeah.
And they were actually my assistant was in that meeting. He lives just up around that corner by Rocky Road. So he watches high rates of speed, both directions go by his house. I mean, high rates, 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Aaron had a good point in the chat, that most of the complaints we received kind of started a year or two ago and were through last summer when most of Richmond was cut off, and Heinsberg Sand and Gravel was one of the biggest sources of material to rebuild all the roads in our town in Bolton and Jericho, and that was the main road to do it. So while obviously trucks hauling those roads would be quieter, that's a good point. There might be significantly less complaints because there's less noise right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That said, we could easily have another flood and have it happen again.
Watch your tongue.
I don't want to say it's not going to happen though, Pete.
No.
Anything else? Thank you.
Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Onto H, more speed hump stuff. So consideration of approval of installing a speed hump on Huntington Road west of the intersection with Bridge Street. So we had talked about this. I think it was last summer or fall about putting a speed hump in front of Stone Corral in that area. We
Yeah, it was just
didn't
this past
formally
summer.
approve it, right?
Yeah, it was just past summer when we were doing a traffic calming update from Pete. He proposed the idea of a speed hump in this area. I seen at the time the board was generally like nodding along in favor of it, but there was not an official motion. So I wanted to bring it back to the board before we install an actual speed hump in that location. Location is, you can see right here, the red line here is right in front of the Stone Corral Brewery.
No, there's a lot more going on there than you would think of, because you've got the traffic coming in and out of Stone Corral. You've got the traffic coming out on the other machine. You've also got our road right there. So you've got 1, 2, 3 points of traffic turning in and out. And this is pretty busy here. And it's pretty close to all of this. So that really needs to be slowed down.
And it's really multiple exit points from that parking lot. It's not like 1 or 2. Aren't there like 3?
So the reason I proposed this, and again, I'm not the hugest fan of this stuff, but this all falls back on the study we did on that Thompson Road, Cochrane, Huntington Bridge Street intersection with the 3, or Keith can tell you, the 3 very expensive proposals with islands, truck tables, double sidewalks, all this to slow the speed down to go around that corner on Bridge Street. Well, the problem with that is, we also have tractor trailer traffic. We have lowboy construction vehicles. Those type of devices in the center of intersection are very difficult for big equipment, like mobile homes being moved and those kind of things, especially with a raised sidewalk on the inside corner. 90% of the problem, and again, is the traffic entering Richmond Village on Huntington Road. Okay, they come in Cochrane Road to come into a stop sign. When they're coming into the Richmond Village, they're going by Stone Corral at a high rate of speed, going over 2 pedestrian crosswalks and then turning in either straight onto Cochrane Road or going onto Bridge Street. And there goes the intersection issue. To me, it seems simple to like, well, let's slow them down before they get there. It's going to give the pedestrian crossings more time and more sight because the cars aren't going to be coming at them 40 miles an hour. And the cars aren't going to enter Cochrane Road at 45 miles an hour, or whatever they are. They're flying straight into Cochrane Road. So it seemed like a simple thing to try. That segment of road's going to get chewed out next year when the whole water main project gets done. It's all going to get ground out and all repaved. That's why we patched the portion of Bridge Street. And same with the Cochrane Road. This end of Cochrane Road will be ripped out and then redone. But if we find it's not working, then it comes out. It's a minimal cost. It's under $500 for us to do it ourselves. We've got the signage, so I just thought
that location's good.
Yeah, I went already staked it all out and dig safety. Yeah, the location's it's actually a great spot. There's a little island right there, which kind of fits right in there. The distance markings for the warning of the speed hump land inside of the area of the pedestrian crossing and the speed hump. So you've got none of the markings are going to intersect or overlap each other and be confusing. So, the markings are another thing you got to look at. You got 100 foot of dashed, dashed bars leading on either side of that hump. So that hump is like 120 feet from that pedestrian crossing you see over at physical therapy. And it's about 10 feet up from Fire Road. So the markings all fit, the hump fits, the signage fits. And you could move it one direction or the other. 25 zone starts about 300 feet before Fire Road as you come into the village. So it's quite a ways back where it turns to 25.
Awesome. Aaron, do you have something?
Yeah, I live near there. I just wanted to ask, why not move the speed bump a little further towards where the 25 miles starts? Because that area seems kind of congested to me.
So back across from your field, is that what you're talking about?
That was Aaron Wag from MMCTV.
Yeah, right. Sorry, other Aaron.
Sorry.
There's a bunch of Aarons over here.
I guess so.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like more by instead of like, seems like where the little drawing there is right across from somebody's driveway. So kind of more like where the H in Huntington is on the map. How about like in that zone?
So here's my answer, and you can tell me I'm wrong. If you drive into Huntington, they put a speed bump outside of the village. What does everybody do? They go over the speed bump and they accelerate into the village. They have so much space. They've got a quarter mile before they're in the village. So I don't think it's effective like that, to be honest with you. And the other thing is those pedestrian crossings are a problem. People have a really hard time crossing because they're coming in at such a high rate of speed. If you can see them in this photo right here, you can see both of them. There's two. So if you put that speed bump outside the village area, I really don't think you've solved anything, to be honest with you. That's my personal opinion, but you can beg to differ with me. It's fine.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Just same comment as last time of the the noise. Also a truck route there, so that's my only caution.
Aaron Farr's hands up.
Aaron Farr.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my two questions would be, have you notified the people that live there that you're looking to put a speed bump there? Because I, for one, live close and I had no idea till I saw the agenda when I was at the meeting right before this. And I definitely think those people should weigh in because they're very close to the road, how they feel about having a speed bump right in front of their homes. And my second question or observation is, I do think that traffic moves kind of quickly there at times, but with the condition of the road currently, it's pretty hard to speed headed from town towards our house there if you don't want to lose like a tire because it's bumpy awaiting the future road work. And I also feel like at some point we had talked about putting better signage in that intersection, like the Thompson Road, Cochrane Road, for those side crosswalks and stuff. And I don't feel like we've done the things that we said we were going to do, which would also, I think, help calm the traffic with better signage about the sidewalks. And I think we had talked about like doing a better job painting the curve there at Cochrane Road. I think there's other things we could do first before we put in a speed bump.
So we did replace the whole Bridge Street sector. We upgraded all the pedestrian signs that were worn and faded. They've all been replaced now. There is one on that corner of Thompson Road that has a branch in front of it that's hard to see, but other than that, they're very extremely visible. They're double-sided, both directions. You know, painting, I mean, yeah, we can do all these things. Once that segment of road gets paved and it's smooth, like the other side of the Iron Bridge up to the light, I think we're gonna have a bigger problem. But this was just something, this is just something to try, and it's great to get everybody's input on it.
Have you tried the or like would you consider when you put the new pavement in doing the little thumpies in the pavement, like the, I don't know what they're called, but like the dig out around the yellow line?
Yeah, that's a rumble strip type thing.
Rumble strip.
Yeah, yeah. That, well, the state does them on their center line, so you don't cross the center line going the wrong lane. But I mean, that's another traffic calming device. That's the same idea as a speed table. It just makes a rumble sound on your tires. We don't have anything like that, but I mean, that's certainly something that, you know, could be installed.
Pete, aren't there, I mean, I remember from Route 2, there was guidance about how close those could or couldn't be to houses.
The rumble strips, Josh?
Yeah.
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 I don't remember that, so.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just think this is fairly populated, so that would create a lot of noise if people get hit. We'd have to look into that.
Yeah.
And my first question, have you talked to the people that live right there about how they would feel about having a speed bump right in front of their house?
This is the first discussion to really talk about it. So no, not with any residents, no. I mean, no one, I pretty much can tell you, nobody's gonna want anything in front of their house. I mean, I wouldn't, but if it's for the betterment of the community, that's what we have to look at. We have spent a lot of time and money looking at that intersection, Cochrane Road, Thompson Road, Bridge Street, Huntington Road intersection. I don't know how much money the town spent, but I know Keith's had countless hours into this. And this was just one step to maybe solve that problem. It may or may not solve that problem, but it was a simple way to try to solve that problem without throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars of engineering and road realignments and upgrades. So that's how this came about.
What do you guys want to do? Do we want to, I guess we could approve it. We could let Pete dig more, talk to the neighbors and weigh the input, or Josh, or however we want to do that. Or what do we want to do?
I'm inclined to approve it.
I don't feel like I have enough information to approve it.
This is Bart. So if it's really, we sort of talked about this before, but if we're serious about it, I don't think there's harm in not necessarily talking to the neighbors, but tell the neighbors we'll be talking about at our next meeting, like specifically send it to them and say, if you want to have input, you can either show up or dial in or video in.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to undermine any solution we come up with more than not having buy-in from people who are there, even if it's begrudgingly bought in.
And I think both residential and business, you know, like whoever's within whatever 50 yards of that.
Agreed.
Yeah, you can mail something to the residents. How far do you want to just sort of like right near the speed bump on Huntington Road in that area, so the base of the business complex? And the houses across the street from it.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Maybe anyone that would kind of be able to see it from their driveway.
Okay. So yeah, we're not going too far down like top run around Church Road, just.
No, kind of the end of basically the entire parking lot.
Yep.
In front of whatever that complex is there. What's that called? And across the
Our
street,
commercial
whatever that
complex.
is.
Okay.
Both sides. It sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I do
Right.
think if they were putting one in front of my house, I would want to at least know about it, so I could.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, even if it was ignored. So,
Sure. I'll see how quick I can get a letter out on that, either to be for the next meeting or the first meeting in November, depending on timing.
great.
I mean, I know, Pete, that probably pushes you into next paving season, maybe depending on weather.
You know, it is, if it takes into November, I mean, you can go right up till Thanksgiving in November, as long as we have weather.
Weather,
This is
okay.
just a surface bump. It's not like it's a road base or anything. It's real important. So, the
Okay.
painting might be a problem. So that's the biggest thing. We got to get the warning pieces put down, but, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, let's ask the people there, and get their input. Sure. And I can go back up to Fays Corner, same thing there. I'd love to get some input from those people that are totally affected in that intersection issue up there.
Yeah, I think I would love to hear from the neighbors and just get a little bit more input before we make a decision there. But then also I would love to hear from, the community generally on that spot and have, I just need some more input on.
Yeah, we're trying to solve the
think.
problem for the entire community.
Right, and-
They're living there, everything, so we kind of need everyone's input.
Exactly. So I also wonder if it's appropriate to I know we warn agendas on Front Porch Forum, but like I would, and I can do this myself too, but I would like to gather more opinions. I just don't have enough of my own to understand.
You're on to an update on questions regarding the Southview 3-acre stormwater permit.
I'm recusing myself. Directly affected.
So this is the follow-up, I guess it was last meeting, there was a few questions. So first of all, the October 1st deadline was the deadline for submitting the notice of intent for the grant that we had that helps pay for engineering and permits. The state's actually extended this deadline to a date to be determined. We sent a letter to them asking them, for any help with that. They did say they're going to extend the date. Don't know the exact date to which that will be extended, but it is good to know we have a little bit more time. As you recall, the biggest sort of holdup is the town didn't want to be sole permittee, and without a homeowners association, we did not have another entity to put on the permit for the notice of intent. So we sort of stopped work back in August, which caused us to not meet the October 1st deadline. There was questions about the Greystone maintenance agreement, how that's set up for the town to maintain the structures are within the right of way, and Greystone Homeowners Association to maintain structures that are outside of the right of way. Confirm that is the way that that's set up, but that's just for maintenance. For the initial construction, it's split based on impervious surface between the town and the homeowners association. Asked our attorney, why is that set up that way versus the proposal for including maintenance on all the structures in Southview that would be, they'd all be within the right of way and sharing that cost with residents. He brought up that there's a homeowners association, so there's already some stormwater project infrastructure in that area that they maintain. The town also already maintains stormwater infrastructure within the right of way in Greystone. So legally, it's set up a little bit differently. Also with Southview, we sort of directed the engineer to try to do as much as they could within the right of way to not disturb anybody's property and try to limit the amount of easements we would need if we needed any easements. So we kind of tailored the work to kind of keep this from impacting people's property as little as possible. We also had some questions about the cost. Currently, we've spent $38,968.52 with engineering costs. That includes 2 invoices that are on the agenda for approval later this evening. We asked the engineer about getting to the full NOI. He says he still needs some engineering work to be complete to get to a full NOI. He does have an engineering feasibility study, which has been completed. But he is a little bit unclear about exactly what does the state need to satisfy the grant. And He might need some more design on that depending on what they're gonna come back with. So he was gonna reconnect with the state to try to figure out exactly what do they need from now till submittal to satisfy the grant. And then he'd have a better sense of the cost for us for that design. There's one other thing. So yeah, that's what I think where we'd kind of come back to. Oh, the special assessment district, we could set up a special assessment district with an estimated cost. You want to estimate on the high side so that if, hopefully cost came back lower, you wouldn't have to assess for the full amount that was agreed to. You would just assess for what the actual costs are. I did ask if the costs go over an estimate, what do we do that? I haven't heard back from the attorney on that, but hopefully there's a way you could write in something that if it's like more than X percentage, we're able to go back for more money. But that's a little bit of a gray area right now that I don't know.
Anyone have anything? Seems very clear, right?
Yeah.
Our path forward is obvious. Being sarcastic if you couldn't tell. I guess I don't have any questions. Do you guys have any questions?
Could we briefly revisit what it takes to set up a special assessment district, the mechanics in it?
Yeah, so there'd be an agreement that you would need 50% of the homeowners to sign to say that they would agree to be specially assessed for their portion of the cost of the engineering construction. We would split that cost based on amount of impervious. So I think the town, I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Roughly a third, a little less than a third.
So, yeah, so then let's say the homeowners have 2/3, they would be assessed 2/3 of that cost, then that cost would be distributed amongst the homeowners potentially equally, unless we wanted to do it based on amount of impervious of each individual property. But if you do it equally, then it's dispersed amongst the 40 some odd homeowners equally. And in order to have an approved document per property, each of the property owners has to sign up on that document. So if one person who owns a property is against it, then that would not validate a special assessment form from that property. But once you have 50% of the properties, then all the properties are in.
Paige?
Hi, thanks. I just want to say, I think I understood it correctly, but I'm not happy about the idea that I have to do this in the first place, but also that I'm going to have to pay forever to maintain this thing that doesn't touch my property or, it just again, not fair. I would like to point out too that the town is paying for the stormwater permits for the other part of the neighborhood because they're quote cheaper. But now we're going to be on the hook too for maintaining this thing forever and then replacing it in 30 to 50 years when, I probably won't be around at that point, but, do we have any idea what like maintenance per year is going to cost?
I don't have an estimate of that. I think it's mostly just like vacuuming them out. I don't think it's a very large cost.
We had talked about it. We had talked about it with Andres and I forget the wording he used, but it made me think it was minimal. So it was vacuuming them out and inspections twice a year, I believe. So I don't think he gave us an actual dollar figure, but he gave it that it was pretty minimal cost of maintenance. But again, that's not a number, so.
Yeah, thanks. I did email all of you on the select board. I think you saw about this meeting coming up this week to study whether there should be a regional stormwater utility. Which if that eventually happens, theoretically, it would tax everybody in the Lake Champlain Basin, and that would provide a pot of money to do some of this work. That meeting's on Thursday, and they're going to have like a meeting every month for the next year or so.
Do we have anything else? Or do we have any? We don't have any next steps here, really.
Not really. No, I think if I get more information about when the new deadline might be, that'd be an update. But I think, and if I get information about how to set the special assessment district, if the cost goes over, that could be an update for next meeting. Because I think really our next thing would be get a special assessment district to move forward with the engineering to complete this, would sort of be the next path forward that I see.
Got it.
Hey, Josh.
Do we want to start the wheels turning on a special assessment district or not? That's kind of a.
Well, I think we would need to know at least an estimated cost we want to put together with that.
Clap.
And get an estimated cost and then the attorneys to see if the cost goes over that, what do we do?
Yeah.
So.
It does seem reasonable. We just don't really have all the info, it sounds like. Yeah. Marianne?
Yeah, hi, thank you. This is Marianne Kittinger. Just real quick, couple questions. When we say 50% of the homeowners need to vote, is that just the 48 homeowners or so that are affected, or is it all of Southview that has, or all of Richmond that has to vote? What's the population of voters?
For the special assessment district, it would be getting agreements from 50% of the properties that are contained within the permitted area. So those, these homeowner houses.
So it'd be the 48, roughly 48 homeowners. Okay. And then I know you guys talked to the lawyer about, you know, why Greystone, you're going to cover their maintenance going forward. I would really, in my opinion, I think we should be kind of treated equally, especially as you just said, it's fairly inexpensive and it's on the right of way. I would make the case that, I don't know that we should be on the hook as homeowners going forward for that if Greystone's not either, regardless of whether they have a homeowners association or not.
The one detail that's important there is that Greystone, a lot of the Greystone design keeps a lot of the infrastructure on private property. And so the design as it exists now would keep all the infrastructure on public property, right? So Greystone law making it so that all the public property infrastructure is paid for by the town. Face value is equal. When the rubber hits the road in Greystone, they're paying for a significant portion of that maintenance. I don't really have an opinion on whether that's fair or not.
Okay.
Just important detail, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Paige, go ahead, Paige.
Sure, thanks. The walkthrough that happened this past summer, which I unfortunately couldn't be at in person, but Andres talked about that in his opinion, everything that's going to be going into these chambers is the majority of it's from the public roads. He said it's not from your rooftops and driveways. It's the sand and silt and sorry, I can't think of the other word. Salt and sand and treatment on the roads, that on the public roads, not on the private driveways and rooftops. So, you know, in his opinion, that what's going into the chambers is really coming from the public roads. And you can go back and watch that. He talks about it. And then he also talks about how it's ridiculous that we have to do this. So, thanks.
Yeah, I think he's, I remember him talking about that. I talked to him about that a little bit afterwards. And so his goal was to treat the vast majority of the stormwater runoff from the roads because it's easier to consolidate. And they only have to treat 50% of the total runoff. So he can pick any 50% he wanted, and it was much easier to pick the road percentage than the private property percentage, if that makes sense. So he was trying to grab like 90% of the road runoff and whatever remaining of private property runoff to make up that 50%. So I guess just to clarify, it's not that it's all runoff coming from the road, it's that it's easier for him to do. So if we were to like extrapolate that logic, we would only be charging the homeowners who he chose to grab runoff from and stuff. I mean, again, it sounds like it's just a function of the rule being written in a way that's very hard to implement fairly, not impossible to implement fairly. So I have one more hand up. Noah? Noah?
Hi, yeah, this is Sarah Heim. Noah is my spouse. So just to clarify, is the current division of maintenance costs that's contemplated basically division based off percentage of impervious surface, town versus homeowners, that the town would have approximately 30% responsibility for maintenance and homeowners would have approximately 70%.
Do we have a proposal?
We don't really have a proposal, but I think that's what's been talked about recently, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, it wouldn't all be on, it's not contemplated, it would all be on the homeowners, though it would be divided in a
Right.
similar manner to sort of the construction costs that we're also discussing.
Yeah, I think that's how we've talked about it the last couple of times, yes.
I think that it's not on the table to have the entire cost borne by the homeowners.
Okay, thank you. And just one other thing I wanted to mention is I know that there is this task force that Paige mentioned that's meeting this week for the first time that's supposed to come up with more guidance, and that DEC is also working on guidance for 3-acre sites that lack an HOA. So to the extent that we can sort of continue to kick the can on this a little, which I know is contingent a bit on that new ARPA deadline. But there might be more hopefully helpful guidance coming out over the next 6 to 12 months too, that we could certainly incorporate into our decision making.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else? Moving on to the next item. Item J, the most important item in the evening. Consideration of appointing an assistant fire chief, possible executive session. We want to do an executive session first. How do we want to do that? So would you guys like to do?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, because it's
Both part of-
both of you, because you guys were in. So I guess just to summarize the process for the.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, so, to hire the assistant fire chief, we followed a process where myself, Adam, Caitlin, and Chief Levac interviewed the 3 potential candidates. We had 3 candidates from the fire department. We were interested. We had, everybody named them.
Mike Parent,
Jacob
Mark
Kilpatrick.
Connick, and Jake Kilpatrick, yeah.
Yes, all 3 of them were interviewed. They all submitted cover letter, resume, and qualifications. We also asked the fire department members for feedback on the 3 candidates. So that was all reviewed by the 4 of us. We have a recommendation to the board of who to hire, but we could go into executive session if David or Bart had any additional questions.
I generally tend to trust the process. I mean, so you've interviewed folks, you've done due diligence in terms of background, et cetera. So I'm comfortable moving forward.
Sound good? You wanna do good, or should we, all 3 of us?
Yeah, let's do. You can do as chair or maybe to his manager.
Oh, yeah, so we had 3 interviews, we had 3 excellent candidates, 3 different skill sets. I think it was a tough decision. I think everyone will agree with that.
Can I just say that I'm really proud that we had 3 excellent candidates?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there was a very real possibility that, not because of qualifications, but because of interest, we could have had 0 candidates. So having 3 people step forward who were all qualified and had experience and skill sets was actually pretty impressive. Considering the stuff that's been shaken up in the last year. Yeah, so ultimately, the committee recommends that we appoint Jacob Kilpatrick as the assistant chief. We would have to have a motion and a second and a vote on it, but that was the recommendation of the committee, and then that was for. Again, there was, I don't know, there was every candidate had very different skill sets and was very qualified, and we thought Jake having Jake has a little bit less time based on his work schedule, but he might have more time to lead it to the administrative stuff and policies. So people back move forward over the next 1 to 3 to 5 years.
I think I'll add to that too, is that it was wonderful getting to know each of you through the process and being able to interview you all. And I think that what we were really looking for was someone who could take the administrative load off of Jerry so that he's able to focus on more of the on-scene type stuff and then the fire department as a whole. So additionally, I think that Jacob, you brought a level of excitement from your 911 operation and your experience there in working with stress and so forth, and I really appreciated that. And I think it'll be a good fit to moving forward and how we're trying to frame up the department into the future, as well as being able to grow from within, hopefully over time and over. Jerry's not going to be the chief forever, I think. So, yeah, I appreciated the process. Thank you all for your time and having on board. Yes.
Well, if I may, speaking for myself, and I think for most of the department, I think he'll make an excellent assistant chief, and we're looking forward to working with him.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Mike. I guess to formalize it, we need a motion.
Adam, this is David. I move to appoint Jacob Kilpeck to the position of Richmond Assistant Fire Chief for a term of 3 years.
This is Barda. I will second that.
Motion. Any discussion? Calling to a vote.
Barda.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys all too. It's good to know that no matter who's on scene or whoever shows up, if Jerry and Jake are out, we have people that are qualified to take over and run stuff, keep everyone safe, and also that there's people that are doing work in the station to fix things up and sort stuff out and organize, and it's great.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing how you engage with the community and some of the ideas that you talked about. I really enjoyed, and so looking forward to
Expect the Santa riding on the fire truck to come back, Jake. This is it seems to in well
I'll also note that one thing that came up during, I think, all of our discussions was there's only so much manpower on the fire department collectively as a whole, and we have great representation. However, there are things that people in the community can do without joining the department, and we need people to help. And so if there's folks that are interested in helping out the fire department, even if it's just for a day or for an event or for whatever it may be, don't hesitate to reach out. You don't have to go full force in order to be part of something a little bit bigger there. So
add to that too, that I think I'm on the fire department as a non-acting member because it can't be on the select board and an employee, I guess. But we all talk about how the fire department is this great duty and you help your community and all that. And that's all true. But to encourage you to come and join the fire department, it's also a lot of fun and it's exciting. It's a group of people, and duty and service only get you so far when you have to get up and do stuff at night or for trainings. So it is also exciting and fun, which is a little more motivating minute to minute, day to day.
Definitely.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Let's see, on to the next. We have consideration of approving a placement of a banner at the town center lawn to recruit firefighters. You want to speak to this, Josh, or do you have the fire department to speak to this, or?
Mike, if I could, because I was the one that came up with the idea. Currently, we do need new members on the fire department. We have tried putting our signs and banners up in front of the fire station, but really not a lot of people drive by the fire station that live in either Richmond or Jonesville. It's kind of a wrong side of town. And we're hoping to get it where a lot more people drive by, and anybody that sees traffic here in the morning and the afternoon knows a lot of people drive by the town center. And we just think it would be a great place to have it for a while, and it might help.
And just note the banner is 3 feet by 6 feet, right?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Discussion, any questions?
Good idea.
Yeah, do we have a time frame? Doesn't look like we have it.
So we're fully
Motion.
To hate this banner during the fire.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, what do we think is reasonable? It seems like it'd be more effective if it moves around town. It makes it, makes people think this like fire department needs people, but not that there's no people, because there's someone doing it. Someone- 3 months, something like that, 6 months.
Get through the winter and then change it in the spring, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So through the end of March.
3 months. The person who had the idea requested 3 months.
There you go, 3 months.
That makes sense.
It's just enough time for the stakes to really freeze into the ground. Like,
Yeah, moving in February is gonna be a lot of fun.
yes, 3 months.
December, right?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I mean, I have no problem with any timeline. I just want to make sure that we want.
Then we'll come back in December and. I guess. Yeah, then we can come back and say, we want to move it to the round church. Is that where?
Yeah, sounds good.
We need a motion, right?
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve the placement of a banner on the town center lawn to recruit firefighters. This banner will be placed on the town center for a period of 3 months.
This Bart, I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Well, like Adam said, if you're watching this and you really hate that banner, join the fire department.
Maybe that's what it takes for someone. On to a vote.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Great.
Maybe if it's saying a really annoying jingle over and over.
Next, we have an update on outreach to neighboring municipalities to discuss short-term police coverage and interest in possible long-term cooperation between police departments.
That's,
With that, I can introduce to you guys. That.
Yep.
You can do it.
While we're transitioning, if anyone is interested in the fire department, they should reach out fire department directly, or how would they get in contact? Yep.
Any fireman.
Any fireman.
Any fireman.
Okay.
And there's also an inquiry sheet. There's an inquiry form on the website as well.
Okay. Perfect. Congratulations, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah.
Tell me when people are here, my doorbell doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh, those are great.
Seem to be missing a very important member of your,
My crew,
yeah.
he's downstairs,
Yeah, where's the rest of the force?
Yeah.
taking a nap.
Yeah, donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, finish.
No, he's probably mad at me. He hasn't been out very much today.
Well,
In an office day, well, you said you had a lot of catch up from the weekend, so.
A car and office, we went all over the place.
Car alarms?
Car and the office, just all over the place.
Alright. Alright. We'll start, I think I know it's about wrong without him. So this first update here, I reached out to Williston. They're not really interested in providing contract coverage for the short term for policing. You know, like, I think that they're, even though they're close to fully staffed, the amount of work that they have coming into their office is pretty big. They don't really feel like they have capacity to help cover short term. They did say they might be open to a conversation for a more long-term look at something like a Union Municipal District. I'll connect with their town manager, Eric Wells, later this month. He was on leave for a few months for a new baby. So should be back, I think, in the week or the week after. Interim Chief Cohen reached out to Essex Town Police. They had a similar response, nothing to the short term, but maybe some interest in long term. We also reached out, or Chief Cohen reached out to the Chittenden County Sheriff's Office. They could provide patrol services for $120 per hour. An officer in the Sheriff's Office is on duty. They could respond to calls for service, but the officer may be limited in the calls they respond to if they're only a level 2 certified officer, which would give them the ability to do some speed enforcement, but couldn't handle certain police calls. And I think at that point, if we wanted to pursue that, it's a question of do we want to pay the $120 to have some dedicated patrol with some ability to respond. Our fallback is that the state police covers when that's not on duty. But they only come certain calls, really like life safety calls.
That's, I have not much more to add to that. It summarizes it.
So I guess, is there interest in trying to do something formal with the sheriff's department? Short term, I assume we'll both want to follow up with Williston and Essex to see if there's any traction there for long term. So that's a little bit more in the distance.
Um, I mean, I would like your input. on
I think we're looking at two different issues. We have a long-term, what do we do long-term? But we also have the short-term need right now.
Mhm.
And then it goes back to what do you, the citizens, want for service, level of service, and are you okay with right now with state police coming in for the emergencies and I'm doing the follow-up days later when there's time to do it? Like that's like I had a theft over the weekend that I'm just getting to on Monday. I'm doing the follow-up now. You know, the wallet's long gone.
Mhm.
It's no longer in possession of the people. Something that we could have responded to fairly more immediate, we have a better chance of recovering property. Doesn't mean I can't pursue that crime. It just means that the chance of recovery is less.
Yeah.
And where it wasn't an emergency at that moment because it was already late reported, it already had happened. It was done. It wasn't life threatening. So it kind of goes back to what are we comfortable with? If we wanted something on more hours that I can cover right away, we could pay for it with the sheriffs and get some more localized patrol, but we don't have any control of who they send.
Yeah.
And there's very different officers at the sheriff's department, varying from people who are extremely strict to very lackadaisical and everywhere in between.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it strikes me based on the various conversations we've had here before about where are the gaps. It strikes me ironically, we're sort of the tail end of the summer and the recreational parking brouhaha. Like if we were having this conversation in May, I think it would be clear, like, let's hire him to go patrol Dugway for a while, right?
Yep.
Like, and tell him what to do and when to do it. Just, those hours, go patrol up there or Cochrane Road, parking. I'm less clear what to think in here October, other than just greater bandwidth. And your comments are sort of concerning because then do you tell them what to do and how to do it, or they follow their own protocols versus Richmond's policy and procedures?
They'd be following their own policies and procedures, and they're answering to their own entities, the sheriff, who's their elected official. And the only way that we give our feedback is no, don't continue the contract.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about your point about parking, it might be something to revisit in April or May as we get ready to see where we're at with staffing at that point.
Yeah.
And maybe we do that. I don't know how quickly they book their summer, because their summer is their busy time, I think, with more construction.
Right. Yes.
But if we start talking with them in March, because we'll have what staffing is, we might be able to get them in for some weekend for parking enforcement. And weekends might be better because not as much road construction.
Correct.
Depending on how much availability they have on the weekend. So there's a lot of factors to play. But I think you're right. Our need would really be more parking and speed in summer.
And it wouldn't be as boring as the transportation construction.
Which, depending on the officer, could be a perk.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Where's Duke?
Downstairs.
Yes. I'm upset.
I can bring them up at the end of the meeting.
I'll allow it.
So if we don't have a near-term sort of need that's appropriately fit, we have this sort of longer-term conversation potentially about regionalization, and it's sort of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. We're kind of where we started.
Yeah.
Many people think it's a good idea, but how to move forward is somewhat challenging, right?
Right. And that's kind of brings in almost to the next topic of how do we move forward and stabilize our department here? Because realistically, our solutions for a regionalization is 3 to 5, 10, 15 years out, depending on how much effort we put into those conversations.
3 is probably pretty ambitious, right? So it's
Yes.
5 or 10 is probably the.
If you had willing, like, if you knew who the willing partners were, maybe 3. But it's not even clear.
Correct.
As someone from representing Richmond has discussed this either casually or formally with all the surrounding towns that have a department. And there has been no obvious takers as it stands.
They're interested in discussing it, but that's not a commitment. And it just illustrates that, to your point, Matt, that it's going to take the front end work to say, are you even interested in arguably giving up control of your department for a regional department?
Yeah.
Which is where I think we were with Heinsberg, what was it, 2 to 3 years ago?
Yeah.
We started the conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're back 2 to
Full
3 years
circle.
ago, and the other departments at this point. It would be a brand new concept to them, just as it was to us in Heinsberg a couple of years ago.
So back to Matt's point, that's a bit over the horizon, back to the near term, right?
And the Heinsberg, the idea of a Heinsberg-Richmond partnership is, I guess, best case scenario in a holding pattern at the moment, and worst case scenario off the table, right? But we don't know because they're kind of stabilizing in.
Yep.
Figuring stuff out at the moment too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Seems like our path forward, medium term, is to figure out, stabilize and rebuild Richmond's department in some capacity if that's the direction we want to go.
Oh, lucky for us, the next agenda item
Is that
is just that.
just that? Do
Placing a banner on the town.
Just like police.
And all open roles. Recruiting for any volunteers.
We'll make sure we write it in blue for you, David, so the police really pops.
A blue banner next to the red one.
There you go. So you want to move on to the next agenda item? We talked about.
I think so, yeah, I think that we've gotten that, yeah, there's no action there, so.
Where are we at? So M. Yeah, so the next item is M. It's a review of police stabilization and recruitment plan. So that's kind of the medium term, short to medium term discussion.
So this is a document I came up with, created, kind of messed with it a few times and come out with what I think we can implement as an overview. I don't need that. As an overview for how we should proceed moving forward with the department and try to stabilize it so that way we are building Richmond back up to where we can become a department that meets the needs of our community here, as well as when we have those discussions of regionalization, that we actually have something to bring to the table to those conversations and not just solely reliant on other towns to be part of the conversation. So I kind of took this from a 1,000-foot view, and there's things in here that might be 2 to 4 years down the road. We might never have staff to do it. This is kind of a living document, so we can adjust it as needed. But this is kind of where I started, and looking for some feedback from you guys too, is where we're going. I can go through it step by step. Don't know if you guys have already reviewed it at all, or if there's certain spots you want to focus on.
Yeah, go ahead, Bard.
So, having been through lots of recruitment efforts in state government, if you're not getting candidates, you got to do something different, right? And often in state government, that means recalibrating a position. There's a whole bureaucratic process required to do that, to raise the rates. Nurses, for a while, they may still have this market rate factor that's separate from their pay grade. On top of their pay grade, that's like something like $20,000 a year in salary, recognizing the challenge of recruitment and retention of nurses. And one of the things that I observed in those experiences is, in management, you only have so many levers that you can push. And one of the few that's really effective for many people, is money. And money doesn't solve everything, but you got to get back up to where you want to be. You don't want to be the outlier at the bottom. You want to be at least in the middle. And so that's what I would observe. There's a table here of the benchmark compensation. And it seems like that's a key thing that we ought to talk about. And full disclosure, I know somebody who's applied for a position in Richmond, so I just want to be upfront about that. I thought this before, but I want to recognize that it might be perceived as a conflict of interest.
It's a good call out. Thank you.
And this is one of the things that I looked at fairly closely of why were people leaving? You know, Richmond has in the law enforcement community basically being a place where people come who are not certified, get certified, and then move on to for another department for whichever reason that is. And we can go to almost every department in Chittenden County and find someone who had worked at Richmond at some point in their career. That's we don't want that as our, focal point of the Richmond Police Department.
Yeah, that's great, but it's not something we want to have.
Like, I don't mind training new people. There's a benefit to training a new person.
But it's expensive.
And I don't want to train a new person to have them leave 2 years later. Like, I want to retain those people that we train because we're putting in that time and effort to train them the way we want them to be trained, to police the way we want them to police. So when we do look at compensation, I understand Bard's part of being at least in the middle of the ground. We're such a small department that if we are even slightly above our general competition, we're not paying that much more across the board for pay in comparison. Like, there's market rate of where that market rate is. And if we're just slightly above that in a net, we're talking $20,000-$30,000 as a whole overall budget. That's not a ton when you consider it's $45,000 to $60,000 to train a new officer.
Yes,
Yes,
with like 40 to 60 or whatever officers, if they add 10 grand an officer, all of a sudden that's a massive change in the budget. But for us,
correct. Like, we have such a small number at this point that it's not a huge hit to our budget when we look at it. And the other piece of the puzzle is we need highly trained people, because at any moment, an officer in town is going to be asked to do the job and be proficient in the job for could be any number of things. Could be a car crash, could be a death investigation, it could be a drug-related incident, it could be any number of highly stressful situations. But on top of that, we have our own certifications that we need to maintain. And I need people who can instruct on those. So I don't have to go farming out to other departments and say, hey, can I jump in on your domestic violence training? Hey, can I jump in on your use of force training? And those are all years in time that we put into training people and certifications they maintain that every department uses. Not every department has, but uses. And if we get people who are already trained in such skills, we don't have to send them out to that training.
Yeah, Chuck, you're right. I don't think we can overstate the importance of what Matt's up there. I've got a good friend who's fairly high up at state police, and he tells me anybody who applies to be a police officer in Richmond is suspect. Doesn't mean anything bad by that. What he's saying is they're not quite ready to be a policeman, or as Matt says, Matt's going to be a professional trainer. And he's just sending these people out. We don't want that. I think we have to go above scale, because the other thing you do when you join a small town police department is you're not going to be a K-9 officer. You're never going to be a detective. You're never going to specialize in anything. You're going to be a patrolman for life. A lot of people, we've lost some good people who wanted to do more. And it's the more of the small town like Richmond.
All true.
Yeah. It is a very specific person who wants to come in and do that Matt's hopped in, he's do a lot of patrolling. You've also been able to do a bunch of this stuff, so you're kind of filling out your entire day. But someone who's gonna come in and, work with you or for you or whatever, and only do patrolling and kind of basic stuff, I mean, some people would love that, but that's not gonna be everyone.
Right, and that's where the extra certifications
Mhm.
go into play, where people, the one thing that is a benefit, I try to tell people all the time with a smaller department, is that we need these certifications. So we're gonna send you out to go get those certifications, those type of trainings. And you'll get them faster with us than you would with another department because you're fighting for the people for that same certification or that same training. So, and then you're gonna get the experience that goes along with it. But that's the pitch to the people that when we come in, like, this is what we have. We might not get a rank, but you're gonna get a lot of experience.
Mhm.
And there are ways every day. I mean, I'm swamped. There's I could have like 3 people working, and any moment they might be nothing. Like the fire department might be nothing at that moment, but the next moment I need 12 people because we have an incident like a shooting in Richmond at the trailer park where we needed 35 people there. I think was the final number. I mean, but we pull resources from everywhere else. So.
The specialty pay and career tracks, I like that line. Talk to me about what does that look like in an offer? Are we saying like, would, we support these things? Are we committing to, like, is there a way to commit to like, we get tuition reimbursement through my work? I know that that's part of my offer and that I can choose to engage with that or not. And I'm guaranteed that money to continue my education.
I mean, this could look at, it could be a yearly bonus. It could be a yearly percentage onto someone's, you keep X, Y, Z certification. These are the ones we'll pay for extra. We'll give you extra money if you have it. There could be things like, but we will pay for, obviously, for the training, make sure and maintaining your training and your certifications. Some of them, like commercial motor vehicle enforcement, outside the basic level, once you start getting to the federal levels, they require a lot of continuing ed and continuing training and support. We have a lot of commercial motor vehicles that run through town that we don't do inspections on, but we're not certified in it. That's what DMV is, and that's really what they do. But we can certify an officer directly for DMV enforcement and run scales and weight violations, and those are highly valuable when it comes to total amount of fines that the town we could pay and recover for trucks going over weight. But once they realize that their truckers realize that we are enforcing the weight violations, they usually avoid the town. I think that's an overview, and there's on that piece.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm just trying to think of like, how can we make I like there's the compensation piece, great. Like, I think that we need to talk about where that goes in comparison. We're low. And then additionally, there's like what makes us stand out. Like, we're going to invest in people and what they, are passionate about. If you have a certification already, maybe we offer to maintain that for the year up to X amount of dollars or something. Or, you could earn a certification and we're going to pay however much that is. I don't know how much that would be, but just knowing that we get that I have gotten the ability to have tuition reimbursement has been a huge asset in my compensation. So and then bonuses, I think like sign on longevity, all that makes sense to me too.
Yeah, and the bonuses, like when you look at like the sign-on bonuses for like at Milton, Essex, they actually pay those out $5,000 a year at the completion of each year. So they're not all being paid out at one point. And it gives us at least some protection of like you're here, you're still working, here's more of that bonus. So it's not coming out. And the other piece of the bonus makes it is actually an easier thing to budget because it's not a pay scale You're not worried about overtime, you're not worried about it adjusting the other parts of the budget. It's truly just, here's a known amount of money we're willing to give you.
Right.
So Adam, it strikes me this is a good framework, and there are some things that are sort of longer term that are more nuanced, the specialty pay and career tracks. But in terms of the front end recruitment, it seems to me, would it be prudent to talk about the salary and sign-on bonuses? Because we're really talking about front end recruitment, right?
Right.
And I started to think like a 15% increase at step one, and arguably it doesn't have to be 15% across the entire pay grid. Maybe 15% at the front end, 10% at the back end, and some graduated thing in between. And I also I gravitate towards the signing bonus of like, 10,000, 5 at the end of year one, 5 at the end of year two. I'm just trying to cut to something that's sort of specific and actionable, because we could talk about this for a while.
Yeah.
And I recognize there's a wrinkle of collective bargaining. I'm really having trouble suggesting that the union would reject an idea that we want to raise wages and sign-on bonuses mid-course in a current contract versus, no, don't do it, wait till we bargain later. My experience is just, if you go with them at an increase, they'll go, okay.
I would say if a union balked at the employee getting better benefits, it's a bad union to be working with.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I can check with our legal counsel too, to see how would we do that, because I mean, the problem is we don't have anybody to bargain with right now. We don't have any actual employees now that Matt's serving as interim chief. So let me find out, because I agree, I'd like to try to adjust this if we can legally. But it might be one of those, sort of beg for forgiveness later, right? We're trying to do the right thing, and right now there's really no bargaining unit members.
We can't get them if we don't pay them more, so we're just gonna pay them more, and then they can vote to not get paid more.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good.
That summarizes it perfectly.
Which they will not do.
No, okay.
So we have budget meetings coming up? Do we want to discuss all this in
that context
of the budget meetings? And I guess where I'm going is, I haven't seen the budget stuff yet, but I imagine it's not going to be an easy budget year. Maybe not as bad as last year, but there's some chance we're going to have to kind of reconcile the number of positions and the pay.
Yeah.
But we haven't really bumped up against a situation where we've been fully staffed and need to raise pay in many years. So it seems like it's kind of a nothing burger at this point.
Yeah, and
I would just observe that would be an interesting problem to have that we, to my knowledge, have never had. And so in terms of process, I think, in the current year, which we started not that long ago, there are vacancy savings. I would recommend we do this sooner rather than later. Like, I don't wait till July 1st to do something. I'd say, why don't we do something in like October? Like,
I agree.
Now, maybe we do it ahead of a budget meeting, because it's doing this.
And we can account for it on
Yeah.
that again.
Yeah.
If we were to get to 3 full-time officers before July 1st, we would still be under budget.
Yeah.
Even at a higher pay, and with the pay magnitudes we are talking about, we would still be under budget.
Yeah.
So doesn't seem like there's a situation on the horizon where we are fully staffed and over budget on pay.
and I'll just be upfront about how I perceive it. If we had X number of filled positions at a higher rate, we're better off than some percentage of those positions filled at a lower rate. And at some point, if we have to limit the number of positions because we're paying people a high rate, we might have to do that.
It's better than continuing to hire, train, and encourage people.
Right.
One consistent person we've had.
And I'd like to build a culture that and both in law enforcement community and here, that we are stable and that this is where a place you want to come to work. I want to have people coming to my door and saying, sorry, guys, I don't have any openings right now.
Yep.
But I'll keep you in mind when I do get one.
Great
Yep.
problem to have, yeah.
You know, I'd rather have that problem. Make less positions than,
Mhm.
Do we want to do this as an agenda item, or do we want to dedicate some time specifically to this?
How do we need to do it?
What's the process to make this happen? And how do we-
Well, it would be, I think, adjusting the pay grid, which we have a pay grid, if you could put some time into like, how do we want to adjust that up? We come back to the next board meeting with a look at that. In the meantime, I double check with our attorney, who might say you proceeded at your own peril if you increase it and somehow down the line, they say they don't want to increase it, which you're not gonna vote to not take the pay.
I don't see the situation.
So I think we
Power of spite.
act and beg for forgiveness later, but we could probably, I don't know, could we look at the pay grid between now and the next meeting and come back?
yeah, you and I can sit down and.
Matt, do you want to come up with some, I know on your, on the chart, you have sign-on bonuses and all that stuff laid out. Do you want to come up with some proposals for that stuff too? Just kind of like this?
Yeah, I'd like to see like a package of, the starting salary is higher, potentially there's a bonus if we think that's appropriate, sign-on bonus, whatever that may be. And then put some numbers to the career track side of things. And like, if we, were to include that in the package of like, here, we are solidifying this as part of, I don't know if we could do that with the union, but, part of contract, like what does that look like? And what are the numbers around that?
Sure.
And I would observe that we may want to split that into two, because the first two, I think, are going to be straightforward.
Yep.
that
Yes,
We can
that's
decide that like,
Yep.
hopefully in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other stuff gets more nuanced, and then what are the comparables for the subject matter or field experts, and how does that work? How long does it take? I know virtually nothing about it. And that, for people coming on, if we just said we're working on that with incentives for that, that might help.
Yep.
Right.
Having done the first part.
Correct.
Yeah, so I guess maybe like as a separate agenda item, we can get a more in-depth recommendation of like, what do we need, what do we think we need? You mentioned one, but like, what are the other pieces that we might want to invest in? If someone has that, what's the cost to maintain that, and how would we sponsor that essentially? Versus like, what do we want to train folks for, allow them to train for and earn that certification? What's the time commitment? Are we paying for the time? Like, just a little bit more in depth. So yes, it's a very broad topic, but maybe we do that separately.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Do it, Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Probably need to pay that from faster.
Am I still
I think so, yeah, I got it.
Traffic
These
ordinance.
things pass together
Review
here.
of draft amendments to the traffic ordinance. to
Oh, yeah.
Address parking on Dugway Road, White Hill, and the eastern end of Cochran Road.
Need to review.
Sure, that'd be great.
So, this has come to the board, I think 2 or maybe 3 times over the last couple of months, as far as what can we do to try to get more enforcement on Dugway Road specifically, as well as West White Hill and eastern end of Cochran Road, specifically around parking, when it comes to parking for swimming holes. So we did some draft changes to the agenda, God, I can't speak. Some draft changes to the parking ordinance. I'll try to find that and we can scroll through those and then.
Page 7, I think is where it starts.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the ordinance. Sorry. All right. So in page 7, we authorize the highway department to post no parking signs for parades and events, that's not really exactly related to this parking area, but it's something we should clean up. Removes the obligation of the select board to set a towing rate. In practice, that has been set by the towing companies. The board, I don't think has actually ever set a towing rate since I've been here. On page 9, section D, this increases the ticket rate for cars on Cochran Road, Duxbury Road, West White Hill, and Dugway Road. While it keeps at the 150, it keeps all other parking violations at $50. It also authorizes a Richmond community officer to issue tickets, and that would be an employee of the town of Richmond, but not a sworn police officer we could hire to go write tickets. Our attorney notes, let's see. Okay. Page 10 would authorize Richmond police officers, the constable and Richmond highway foreman and assistant foreman have vehicles towed. That's very helpful, especially in the winter time when road crews out and might need a car to be towed in the winter to get out of the way of plowing. We also looked into accrediting tow companies to come out and tow cars on their own. The attorney advised against that because he said that once you do that, they've sort of become quasi-employees, and then they're making an action and a determination that would benefit them financially and would be a violation of the ethics policy. So sort of understand where he's coming from with that. Chief Cohen and I did take a drive last week up on Dugway Road with an idea of, well, what if we just put signs up where we want people to park rather than saying, get off the travel portion of the road and then there's a big gray area. We identified about 12 locations on the road that would hold about 45 to 50 cars. And if we were aggressive with signage, we might be able to create parking areas. I do want to note that we did not run that by the Parking Advisory Committee. We probably should have. Chuck and John are here from the Parking Advisory Committee. I'd love to hear their input. I think before the board makes any decision, we should go to one of the committee meetings to see what their thoughts are, because they've spent a couple of years looking at parking there and may have already looked at that and then thought about why that wouldn't work.
I have one housekeeping context, Adam. So item D, penalties, number 3. Should we also include their contracted officers? Because it doesn't state that clearly, like if the sheriffs came.
Yeah, we might need to do that. I think it's any law enforcement officer can enforce it, right, Matt? But maybe we need to be clear.
Parkinson's may be issue. It's written here. I would say any law enforcement. We just instead of saying Richmond police officer, say any law enforcement officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Richmond Constable or the Richmond Community Service Officer.
Yeah.
Officer.
That makes sense. And there's a typo in number 2. Names should be named, I think.
Yep.
And similarly, under 11A, parallel construction to what Matt just suggested at the direction of a, whatever your language was,
Any
police, law enforcement officer.
Any law enforcement officer.
Offer a comment when you're ready.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So this is along the lines of the discussion in some previous meetings. I see some merit to it. A couple tweaks I'd consider. You've included all of West Whitehall and all of Cochrane Road. Cochrane Road's 3.5 miles long. I know the intent was that there were potentially out-of-staters with lots of money. You could spend $50 on swimming, but at the same time, so we wanted to raise that, but at the same time, we're reluctant for someone who slipped up in another part of the town and made a minor infraction, getting $150 ticket. St. Mary's Cemetery is on this end of Cochrane Road. Mountain bikers use it, but if someone's visiting a loved one's grave, do we want them to get a $150 ticket? The biggest problem on West White Hill has been down near the Huntington River. When there was talk of ticketing at Gillette Pond during skating season a few years back, there are a lot of people concerned about that. There's a nice new parking lot there from the Land Trust that holds 10 cars, but on a perfect day, if it doesn't fit everyone, do you want the skaters to get a $150 ticket? So consider whether it's possible for those 2 roads to include part of it. And then Chuck can comment on this. I think previously there was an attempt to delineate where the parking spaces were on Dugway, and there was concern, were they vandalized?
We're gonna have to go to Pete on that question.
Yeah, but I don't have any hard information. I see some merit in doing.
I mean, so the parking committee's been looking at this for 8 years.
Yeah.
We've met with 2 to 3 dozen Dugway Road residents. They told us what they wanted, told us what they didn't want. We've done surveys with 85 people replying to why they're there. We've made detailed maps of where parking is and where parking isn't allowed. We rode the road, a guy Pete Goslin crazy, driving up and down Dugway Road, delineating good parking, bad parking. Did the same thing with Chief Joe 15 years ago. Did the same thing with Andy Squires. There's a lot of resources out there. We've got a good team going together, but we didn't use the team. We went out and we did a lone wolf thing. That's not sit well. I've seen 40 years of parking on Dugway Road. I know what works, I know what doesn't work. I know where you guys are at. Pete, I want to hear what you have to say about this. My last thought is this. We just left a good conversation about law enforcement in Richmond. And Bart, I think, made the comment that it's different in July than it is in October. Think to ourselves, what would happen if we could solve the June, July, August problem? You just solved your policing problem. You know, and tongue in cheek said at one of the last meetings that we should have resident parking only on Dugway Road. And I was pleased to see that there was some nodding in their group that said, that's not stupid. My inbox blew up. People saying, I can remember when I used to take my grandkids down across from my house was called a picnic area. And there was actually a picnic table down there. And you used to bring your kids down there and all that stuff. And it wouldn't be needed that people from Richmond could utilize the resources of Richmond instead of constantly giving them away to people who come here and quite literally poop and pee all over us and leave. So maybe these two conversations aren't very far apart. Be the conversation of making Matt's life reasonable again and have him be more than a meter Molly, which he is more than.
Thank you.
You know, and maybe that's the conversation that would lead into how we draw people in here. Who wants to come to Richmond to be a cop to write tickets all day long on a 95-degree Sunday because the beaches are closed in Burlington? I'm with you, brother. You know, thanks for coming. But I think your world would be a lot easier if you didn't have that stigma of being a parking attendant. Thank you.
I don't know, I know that we don't, oh, Pete, sorry. Thank you.
I've been taking it all in. I've been dealing with this for, well, 30 years, several different police chiefs. And Chuck has put countless hours in, the parking advisory committee has, and we made every attempt to try to control as much as possible on Dugway. But, you know, you made it very clear, Chuck. I mean, we don't have the resources. I think the community service officer would be something brand new to try, and it won't put the strain on the police department. I really think that could make quite a difference. Clean, really clean and clear signage. That's a good step. I think, Josh, you know, you got your idea of designated places to park. All other places are towable. That's another thing to look at. Again, you don't want to overstep the parking outside of the travel portion is I don't know if that's legal or not. I know parking within the travel portion is not, but it gets a little muddy there. That road's very muddy. to speak to that. John, to your comment about the Gillette Pond thing, that's in the winter months, and 90% of the time that would be something that we would be dealing with, plowing snow. You know, we wouldn't just pull up and see a vehicle on the side of the road and just have it towed. We'd probably blow a horn. We'd probably look for someone skating 50 feet from the road, and they would see us plowing. Hopefully they would have the sense to, like, hey, I'll move my car, let you plow, and then you put your car back. I mean, we would work with somebody. But on those times that, you know, at dusk, they're leaving their car on the side of the road, probably should be towed. So, we're gonna use some judgment. And I am extremely happy to be able to tow cars in the village because we have no resources for that. And we've been plowing around them for 5 years with the hopes that we don't tear somebody's door off. Bard, you can attest to it. Baker Street, they park up and down that street all over the place. We can't get through with our trucks and plows. So, it's going to be case by case. It always is. But this is a great step, I think, to start to work on some of the parking stuff. So, there's no simple answer. You're not going to cure it all in one meeting. But this is a great step, in my opinion.
Just to be clear, this is a great step. The step to increase the ticket costs and the other verbiage changes that we've had. But are you also saying good step to sign additionally, or is that separate? Just want to be super clear.
I'm talking about the people that can do enforcement. That's a major step. Nothing to do with the fines. That's obviously going to be your decision to make that change, but allowing more people to be able to make that decision and taking the burden off the police department to handle just parking issues is going to be huge. Because we're out there at 2:30 in the morning, and I got 4 cars in the parking lot. I got 1 on the street, 1 in front of the businesses, and so I got to call state police. They got to call the officer on duty. You pay that officer on duty a call out pay to tell me go ahead and tow it. It's so much involved. Where if I had the authorization to just make that decision, it'll just simplify everything. So I'm talking winter months basically for highway. But in the summer months, I think to Dugway to have a steward, not a uniformed officer, so to speak, to be there every weekend or for those hot times of the year. I think that's going to be a really good change. So that's my just personal opinion on that.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My wheels have been turning on this community service officer or, whoever it is, the parking violation person. And I'm picturing as somebody who's gone to the gorge for literally about 50 years, that many of the people who go up and down that hill are large, inebriated young men. And one of the things I'd observe is you don't want to pick a fight with like this drunk rugby player about the ticket on the vehicle. So I just want to suggest that somebody out there on their own is going to have to de-escalate and walk away at times, or, because they won't have the ability of an officer. And that's sort of a caution that we don't want people to pick fights or get hurt over.
And that's would be some part of the training, because realistically, I don't need anyone getting hurt over a parking violation. If someone is going to yell and scream and can carry on, just write down the plate and walk away. We'll figure it out later. Because we always can follow up. Once we get the plate, we can follow up with whatever I need to follow up with after the fact.
So it's a good point. I'm just thinking in terms of people's expectations. It's clear to me sometimes from Front Porch Forum and other areas that people are not always realistic with their expectations of the police department, where they're going to be, what they're going to accomplish in a given day. And I think we should be, clear-eyed about what we would expect of somebody. And it's actually good timing if we're going to have like a part-time position for, I think we're really talking Cochrane Road as an experiment. We ought to be building it into our budget and assume it's in the police department, supervised by the chief, and figure out how that's going to work. I don't need to micromanage it, but I think the timing is good for the budget conversation.
Definitely. In terms of, there's no motion tonight, but are we trying to approve the changes, or are there things that we need to go back on? In terms of the verbiage changes, page 10, page 9, page 7.
Yeah, I mean, the things that Barb pointed out, and then I think I'd want to know which ones do you want to have in, I don't like the idea of limiting it on Conklin Road and limiting it on West White, so where would we put those limits if that's what the board wants to do?
Well, I think that would be we would want to send that back to their committee to do
Okay.
that. I don't think we want to do that on our end, would be my hunch. We don't want to make the committee obsolete. Well, I think they have the expertise and the knowledge to do it.
Instead of setting specific fines, can we put a range in?
Yeah.
No.
Do you want to be arbitrary or capricious?
Setting a set fine for the violation, so that way it doesn't fall onto the discretion of the officer to try to make a range. Even when we look at our state traffic tickets, there is a range that the judge can change the ticket to. But there's a waiver amount set by the state of what every ticket will, for that amount for that violation will be written for.
Okay.
So the officer's not
Picking the range,
giving the number that
yeah, that number's been set by the state. And then the judge, when you go to the court, can adjust it anywhere in that range.
Adam, I'm going to suggest we send this to the parking committee and we have the redlined areas. And if they have specific suggestions on like the areas, modifications of the stretches of road that describe that. There are other parts here that describe like from here to here. So arguably some of the same stuff could happen.
Time of year potentially too. Can you put dates?
Yeah, what like,
I guess I have one question, because I know we've talked about this from the perspective of keeping the road clear and it being a safety issue, and then I've also sort of brought up, not really in my time before, but previously, about being like a property issue with noise and stuff. And I know that that's a lot of the land that's accessed is Vermont or Richmond Land Trust land, so it's kind of some sense town land. So I guess I would want to, we should kind of define what our goal is here too, is our driving, our main objective to keep the road safe and passable, or is our main objective to curtail recreation there to a point that it no longer impacts the neighborhood? I don't really want to get into that debate now about the merits of those, but those are two very different and distinct goals that will have very different approaches.
Can we start with the safety? Because that's step one. And I think that's going to solve some of the issues for the neighbors, I think.
As we have the discussion. That's not their primary concern. They're totally fine with the road being one lane in parts, as long as it's quiet by their house. Houses across from the land trust land, which is not their land, as much as people view it as kind of an extension of their, having the access as an extension of their property and like their peace and quiets. It is land that is accessible by members of the community, and that community being anyone who can drive there and park legally. Does that make sense? So we're not, I think we should make it clear that we're not, right now, we're not trying to solve that issue. We're trying to solve the parking. It's the safety, road safety issue.
I think so, which is a step towards what the other goal might be of like nobody ever.
Yeah.
It's like reducing the number and the annoyance of that. I think that's what our goal ought to be. There's this other pending question which has come up a couple of times about restricting use of Richmond recreational resources. And I bring it up with some trepidation, but towns all around us have already done this. I used to go to Indian Brook Reservoir a lot. I can't go there anymore because you got to be an Essex resident to get a permit. And at least they say they will tow you away if you're not an Essex resident with a permit trying to use Indian Brook Reservoir. I think last I knew, Shelburne Town Beach was restricted to Shelburne residents. I will tell you, we also had Shelburne residents talking and emailing about what we ought to do for recreation in Richmond to support them. And it's hard to say, well, you know, what about the Shelburne Town Beach? In exchange for that, can Richmond residents get access to that? So it is potentially part of a solution.
Much greater than mine for not just saying that in an email.
I just bring it up because it's out there. And I'm not convinced it's a great idea, but it is an idea. And I think if people have thought about it, we ought to at least contemplate it.
And I know we're probably over limit, with regards to my esteemed colleague in Bar, there are 2 towns in Chittenden County out of 15 that are restricting. And I don't think we should get on the bandwagon, because it would be a race to the bottom. I recreate in most of the towns in Chittenden County. I go to North Beach. I go to the beach in South Burlington, and I would rather we keep things open if at all possible, and I understand people's concern.
So last I knew,
Just think about where you're headed.
don't you pay to go to those things?
Depends what time of year it is, but they let me go. In Shelburne, it's in the deed. I think it's something they can't get out of.
But like to go to North Beach in the summer, you have to pay to get in.
You do, but I don't, because I'm a senior. But hard to believe. Yeah.
So I'm not sure like how people feel about it. There's pros and cons. I just feel compelled to at least, run it up the flagpole.
We can't not acknowledge it because it has been brought up.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the relationship between the thing and the ticketing and the recreating that's happening up there. I wonder if there is something to not just restricting it to just Richmond. I'm not necessarily in favor of that. But what
Richmond and Bolton.
what if there was all are welcome here. What if there was a way to permit, and that Richmond residents had got a free permit that with their address, this is what we did in the town growing up, with the beaches. You get a free permit if you live in the town to park. You can park all summer long. And then you could pay for a permit otherwise. And so you could pay for a summer permit. Then we have the person's car on record and we know who they are. We can also contact as they buy the permit. Here's the safe places to park. So then you're like clearly communicating that. If they're coming for the day, didn't know that there was a permit required or so forth. You run into the issue of people just parking wherever they feel like it and trying not to get in trouble. But otherwise, we could have buy a permit via code, and then you're again adding your thing and seeing something. I don't know, but there might be something there that we could work off of.
Go ahead.
2 seconds. I really think the pickleball court of all things is gonna drive us down this road. There's a lot of conversation about, there's no pickleball courts in Richmond, and last week said that this is for residents only, and I think there's gonna be a connection between a parking sticker at the pickleball court and that parking sticker you get as a Richmond resident, or you pay $50 for an out-of-town resident. I don't think we're charting new water there. I think that's a reasonable plan.
Yeah. And so I'm from Kennebunk, Maine originally, and obviously it's very different because it's a big beach, and there's limited parking along the beach, and people can park in the neighborhoods behind it. But I mean, your beach sticker is coveted, and you keep them on your car. I still have one on my car from a couple of years ago, and so you can buy them for certain periods of time. But if you have the resident sticker, it's pretty cool, and it works.
Even with the Vermont plates.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I got the sticker. Gave it to me.
Anything else?
All right, so we'll take proposed changes to the committee.
Yes.
For that, they'll consider it, and we'll come back.
Hopefully a whole night's sleep.
And we'll come back.
They're gonna get our stuff moved to the front of the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
Next we have consideration of approving a new 1-year contract from Howard Center for community outreach, program.
So this started last summer. Howard Center came to us and said they might need to raise the rate that they're charging to the municipalities for the community outreach program, because they were going to be losing the grant for mental health. In the agreement with Howard Center, which I think was a 5-year agreement, there was a reopener clause if they lost some funding. Initially, they came to us with that Richmond was going to go up to about $12,500, and I think the original contract had us closer to 10,000. Put that in the budget. that was approved at the town meeting in March, knowing that, okay, this is probably coming. In the intervening months, they actually got the grant from the Department of Mental Health. But then came the municipality saying that, you know, the cost of fringe benefits were going up and some other revenue sources were going down. They'd still like to try to get some more revenue from the municipalities. We had a couple meetings with town managers and the staff from Howard Center to try to figure out, well, what would be appropriate? We do have a contract in place right now. How do we work with them to try to get to where they need to get to? Ultimately, we did decide that we could try to agree to some increase this year. The contract actually runs out at the end of June of 2026. And then we wanted to start working on an agreement for next year that's more transparent and clear about costs. And if their cost goes up, how do we deal with that as the member municipalities that are part of this contract? Oddly, it ends up that our price goes down in this new contract. I think that some of it was weighted on some of the usage of the bigger towns. I know South Burlington right now, I've seen a lot of usage of this program to the point where some of the staff, they try to leave South Burlington and they turn right around. There's another call coming in. And South Burlington has been very transparent about that. Yeah, their need is pretty high right now. So let me find my numbers here. I think we go down to $9,196.
Yep.
So actually lower than we budgeted for. So I would recommend we sign this change. We're actually saving a little bit of money for this year. I think we have a meeting scheduled for later in October to start talking about the next contract and what that's going to look like. Two things I want to make sure we put in there is that I've never really understood their data when they report it to us. It always seems a little odd, like what's a call from the police, what's a call, because you can call directly as a citizen, like, hey, I want to reach out. You know, and their calls, like, is it one person 5 times is 5 calls, or is that 5 different people? So I want a little bit more clarity on that. Just make sure we have better statistics. And I know from talking to Matt and previous chiefs, our numbers always seem low, and maybe they are, but that's why I want to make sure the statistics are good. And then when I have talked to Matt and previous chiefs, they say, well, whenever we call and refer somebody, they're always there to answer that referral. So it's not that they're falling down on service when requested. We just may not be requesting as much as other towns.
This is kind of in the weeds, but Burlington's not in here. Is that because they have like their own street outreach program, something like that?
Yeah,
They do.
Yeah, they have street outreach, which
Yeah.
is also run through
Howard
the
Center.
Howard Center. And this actually started, I mean, we added in, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, Richmond jumped in. Originally, I think it was South Burlington, Williston, Winooski, Colchester, Essex, and then Richmond added in, Heinsberg added in, most recently, I think Milton and St. Albans.
Milton, and I think Shelburne added in.
Yeah. So there's been some add-on. So this isn't like compulsory for the entire county. But it is, I think, all towns that participate do see a benefit.
Gretchen?
And when someone from Richmond, like the officer from Richmond calls Howard, they are available when needed?
When they're on staff, so it's not a 24/7 staffing. They do have staffing hours that they try to model around when the calls for service are going to come in. But if there's a weekend event, often there won't be staff. But what will happen is then they'll get that message, and on Monday they'll follow up. And there's other things. So what is it? First call.
First call is
crisis happening on a Saturday. You can call first call and get somebody right away.
So you feel like you're getting the backup and this
Yeah.
extra help when you need it? Or-
Correct, and they handle a lot of social services. They're like our yellow pages for social services. So when there's an individual who needs some sort of social services need that's be it not law enforcement related, I had an example of someone even earlier today. I called them that nothing law enforcement really related, but they definitely need social services. So I said, call outreach. Can you follow up with them? And they gave me a call. I said, yeah, we'll get to them by noon tomorrow. It wasn't a pressing need, but they'll follow up with the person. So and when they tell you that, they do. They end up following up pretty quickly. Yeah.
Anything else?
This is David. I move to approve the one-year contract with Howard Center for the Community Outreach Program.
This is Caitlin, I'll second.
Motion by David, second by Galen. Discussion? Do a vote.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, aye.
Aye. Let's see, so we have. Q, consideration of using funds from the town center to fund to pay for repair work to the library sprinkler system.
Sure. I'll cover it. So per the MOU with the library, they're responsible for a lot of like the sort of day-to-day maintenance over there, as well as like the annual inspection of the sprinkler system. The town is responsible for larger maintenance items, larger facility items. So in the annual inspection of the sprinkler system, they identified, I think it's about $4,076.44 worth of work to repair sort of, I guess, things that have failed on the sprinkler system over the years. So that seems like it's more of a larger investment in the facility than the annual inspection, so it should probably come to the town. So the library's requested the use of $4,076.44 from the town center library reserve fund to pay for the maintenance of the library sprinkler system.
I'm just pleased that they have a sprinkler system.
Yeah,
Oldest buildings.
we're asking why do they have that and this building doesn't? And I think the answer that Jerry said was that because they did a more than 50% substantial improvement, they
Yeah.
were required to have a
That's
sprinkler
right.
system, and we
Yeah.
were not. Right here, this building was not.
Stick around.
Says it could be coming our way.
Adam, this is Bart. I move to authorize the use of $4,076.44 from the town center and library reserve fund to pay for maintenance of the library's sprinkler system.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Any discussion? Calling to a vote.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, aye.
Adam, aye. Next, we have, see some appointments. So consider appointing a representative to the Chittenden unit for special investigations. I believe this is a. Elaborate.
Yeah, so it's CUSI, which handles a lot of sex crimes in the county, and every municipality in the county that doesn't have an officer position can also have that opportunity to have a representative on the board. I think it's a 2-year term that rotates around those towns. We currently have a position that runs until May of 2026. Jay Fur was filling that position, but he stepped down about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we can nominate another person to fill that position. It doesn't have to be a select board member. So we could nominate someone tonight, or we could put it on Front Porch Forum and see if anybody else would like to put their hat in the ring for that.
What is the general responsibilities of a representative?
There you go. Yeah. The meetings take place on the last Thursday of each calendar month at noon. They usually last between 20 to 35 minutes on average, and they are virtual Zoom meetings.
So what kind of?
Yeah, what do they cover?
What are the, having never attended them,
No,
people are gonna.
I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. That way it might be good to ask Jay next meeting too.
I'm going to suggest, this is Bart, that for both this one and the next one, that we recruit from the citizens and put together sort of the expectations.
Yeah.
Frankly, the expectations for CUSI are specific. The alternate for CCRPC is funky because you can show up for every meeting if you want. You just can't vote unless the lead representative is not present. But I think we should at least encourage community members, citizens to participate. It's a stepping stone to other broader roles if they choose, you know.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah, I can get a summary, ask each organization for sort of a summary of what a board member does.
Yep.
Maybe they can use AI.
Caitlin could help. Do it for them.
So that covers both, I guess.
Yeah.
Both of those, right? So
Yeah.
we're on to, that covers R and S. just for the record, I guess we kind of covered consideration of appointing alternate representative to CCRPC Board of Directors. T, consideration of accepting the $30,000 local economic impact payment.
So this is money that the legislature voted to give to every community that was affected by flooding in 2024, with the stipulation that it can be used for anything the community would like to use it for, except for something that was also covered by a FEMA payment from 2024. So we could, towards anything. One thing that Connie suggested was that maybe we put up to $5,000 of this toward the new fire truck, because it's actually coming this fiscal year. I think that Jerry initially thought it was coming next fiscal year based on the feedback. So we should be able to cover all but about $3,000 of that with the current reserve. So we'll need to find about 3,000, maybe a little bit more for that. So you could earmark 5,000 of this to cover that deficit, and then that would leave us $25,000 put towards something to be determined by the select board at a future date. And full transparency, they needed a decision. They needed us to accept this by like the end of September, and they gave us like a week's notice. So I went ahead and accepted it on behalf of the town, but wanted the backing of the select board to say, yeah, we do accept the $30,000.
I don't think we should.
I figured it was much like police bargaining. Accepting money probably was not gonna really need disciplinary action.
Adam, this is David. I move to accept the $30,000 in local economic recovery grant funds and to name town manager Josh Arneson as the duly authorized representative, and to allocate up to $5,000 to pay for a portion of the fire rescue truck that is not covered with reserve funds.
So Caitlin, I'll second.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. AC. Next, we have consideration of sending a select board representative to the Chittenden County Municipal Elected Official Biannual Forum on October 30th, 2025.
Yeah, so this is something that Chittenden County put together. I think it was back in the spring was the first time they did this. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend that, but it sounded like they had a lot of good feedback from those that did attend. It was very helpful to the select board members and the municipal managers that were there, sort of networking and a chance to talk about a few topics that kind of affected all of their municipalities. So I think they're looking to put this together 3 times a year. The next one's going to be on October 30th, 2025. I've signed up to go, put that on my calendar, and we could send up the 2 select board members. And the star of the show, Duke, has entered the room. For those of you on video, you can see Duke walking across the screen.
No, this is completely unrelated, but I saw the car that crashed into the dead tree on my house today. My kids were very excited, not because the car crashed. Duke's definitely in that police car down there. We're very excited.
You know, they told me that the Duke had to pull a lady out from the car by his teeth.
Did they tell you that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they told me that too. But I was with you and the guy just walked out.
Yeah.
Like, no, Duke pulled him out.
How legends start.
We've been telling that story to their grandkids. You're gonna see, when I was growing up, we had this hero dog.
It's a new Duke book. I heard Duke has a book I didn't know about.
Good book.
30th? That would be interesting to go to. I don't know if I can commit to that. Sounds fun.
Or did I even put a time frame on there? Shoot. I did.
6 to 8. That one?
Thursday, October
Yeah.
30th, 6 to 8.
Oh, no.
Where is it?
Main conference room, White.
It's
No, it's
just,
not.
if you go across the bridge in Winooski, turn left at First sort of street that parallels the river, and it's kind of down in there. I suggested to Charlie that, hey, there might be things like regional policing that select. Because I don't think there's an established agenda. That's my understanding anyway. So good dog.
It sounds like it's kind of just a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Networking.
Blank slate. Yeah. Shared problems, shared opportunities.
Hey, boy.
Sure. Sounds good.
True
Great.
reference by the people that would have to babysit.
No.
Nope, done. So moved. Aye.
Aye.
It's a Thursday. Oh.
Yes.
May,
I already have Thursdays off because I have gymnastics, so it doesn't matter. I just went for gymnastics, yeah.
This goes to gymnastics too. I should break her back. She's good.
Oh, she could go on Tuesday.
She actually did break her back, the one that was here talking.
She did.
It's obviously not, she's not paralyzed.
But let us check.
Yeah.
Wait, what, this is in the evening, okay.
We can also bring it back to the next agenda. We have another.
Or unless
another
anyone
meeting
else wants to
to
go
go
too. Else wants to go then.
Yeah, otherwise we can just go.
What are we doing? Are you guys going or are we bringing
We're
them?
gonna check them.
We're gonna go
If you can't-
pending.
If you can't go, let me know.
Approval.
Put it on the other
So,
agenda. And if only one of you goes too, it's not, you know.
yeah,
Bring your pizza. More realistically, you have pizza. Oh, okay.
Me and Jacob going by myself.
We'll go.
We're gonna go.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
To. Approve the minutes of 9:15.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the draft minutes of September 15th as presented.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Motion from David, second from Caitlin. Any discussion? I have one. Awkward one, but I know with the minutes that talked at the beginning, where there's Jay and Paris interaction. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I do know that now that we use local minutes and that people will refer to the minutes, it's important that it reflects and pretty accurately what happened without being dramatic. I've kind of workshopped a bunch of ideas how to make that happen in a respectful but accurate way. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that the interaction started with Jay making disparaging comments to a member of the public. I don't want to smear Jay's name, but I think that pretty accurately sums up what happened. It was pretty unprovoked, so we'll be open to maybe we kick this one down the road and figure out how to word that in a way that's accurate but considerate of everyone involved. Just know that we're like searching stuff on local minutes now. What's in the minutes does matter.
Yeah.
And not everyone's gonna have time always to watch the video.
I'll be honest, I haven't read those minutes. I wasn't exactly wanting to.
Yeah, no, the minutes, I mean, are not a bad read, which was my initial. Josh's credit, Duncan, I guess.
Yeah.
Like he kind of probably did the smart thing and kind of glossed over it. Which and
Well, there was
wasn't hard to
also-
read, which made me realize quickly, I was like, this should be hard to read. Maybe not extremely hard. if you
My
want.
memory was I'd stopped the meeting. So it's kind of ambiguous as to what was meeting, what wasn't.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look at the minutes before I feel comfortable.
Yeah, I
moving.
mean, even like that, I had that same thought. I think even just the initial interaction was like.
Mhm.
No acknowledgement of that.
Okay.
So.
I withdraw my motion
I
because
think-
I don't feel comfortable moving it because I haven't read them.
Yeah, and from Matt, Adam, if you have a draft of something you think would work, if you want to send that to Duncan, he can add that to the draft minutes, we can just bring it back to the next meeting for the
Okay.
board to approve.
Yeah, I would like to have Jay here too. I mean, I know it's awkward because I would like him to weigh in if I want him to think it's maybe not comfortable but fair. I don't think that we're trying to
Yeah.
do anything to like behind his back and put on the public record something.
and to be fair, I wasn't here, but this is summarized in like a very sort of high level way. And you might want to say a little more than is currently. Yeah.
I would want, if someone was reading the minutes, I would want them to possibly get the inkling, oh, if I want to know more here, I should watch the video. And those minutes do not give me that.
No.
So the motion, is the motion withdrawn?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I gotta work something up then, right?
Oh, sorry, I thought you had some draft.
I had, but I didn't.
Let me save it.
I was like, none of them were,
Okay,
so it's tough to figure out what I want, so I'll email it down.
yeah, that works.
I guess next we're on to purchase orders.
Yeah. And
Those
there,
first, the warrants first.
no, let's do purchase orders. I was like, because warrants. So this one is for the current cost of engineering for watershed consulting for the Southview breaker permit. So amending it from 34,159 to, oh man, that's really light. 38,968.52. And that is now stopped until we go back to watershed to ask for anything more.
You don't want to make a motion?
Oh, sorry.
Number is 38,968.52.
38,968.53.
53.
Oh, shoot, why does it say 52? It is 552. 52 is the right number. I have a typo in the memo.
I will not be making this motion. I'll abstain from this. So someone else.
So this is Barb, motion to approve amendment, and what's the number of
507.
Purchase order number 5079 to reflect a new total of $38,968.52.
This is David, I'll second.
Discussion. Any vote?
Art, aye.
David, I.
Caleb abstain.
Adam, aye.
This one, we're actually gonna skip. This is for SD Ireland for some additional costs to the sidewalk. Pete and I still have some questions. We want to get back from SD Ireland on this one. It is in the warrants. When we get to the warrant, we'll pull that off and just note that in the motion. We'll see.
You said that.
Yeah, so that's what Pete and I were trying to figure out. So there was a lump sum price of 74,543 for 9,750 feet of sidewalk, as well as 4 ADA basements, which is the metal section of the sidewalk. There was some additional cost. They had to build some steps, I think 4 sets of steps, because the sidewalk came up in the project. And we had to get people to their walkways. And there was also some ramps in that area and a couple other things that weren't anticipated in the initial bid. But the unit price that they gave us, Pete and I were looking at today, we're like, that doesn't quite add up. We want a little bit more explanation. So it may well be that the price stays the same, but we just want to have more explanation. So we'll bring this back to the next meeting. Next is for Vermont Bond Bank. This is PO 5298. This is a confusing invoice because they put bonds on it. One bond for the fire truck and one bond payment for Jericho Road. And Jericho Road is split between highway and water and wastewater because that was combined. So this is for a motion for $9,872.40 for the fire truck and $49,802.85 for the Jericho Road improvements, which are going to come out of the general fund. And the rest of it was already made for a motion from the Water and Sewer Commission for this portion here, which is related to water and sewer improvements.
This is Caitlin. I move to approve purchase order number 5298 to bank for payment of the bond for the fire truck and Jericho Road improvements in the amount of $9,872.40 for the fire truck and $49,802.85 for the Jericho Road improvements.
Adam, this is David, I'll second.
Motion by Caitlin, second by David. Any discussion? Vote.
Art, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye. On the watershed, who was making it? Was it Barb made the motion and David seconded? The watershed consulting one?
Yeah.
You made the motion, right? The hard to read one.
Yeah.
One more. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is PO number 5299 to Toyne. This is for the balance of the payment for the new rescue truck for $467,746.68.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5299 to Toyne Incorporated for final payment on the rescue truck in the amount of $467,746.68.
This is Caitlin. I'll second.
Discussion? Good vote.
Art, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye. part, I don't know that I am from at you while you're maybe on. Just warrant selector.
Yeah, and let me just pull the one warrant out that we're looking at here. So. So SG Islands we will remove this 96,290. I'm just gonna cross that out on physical copy. And then the total at the end will go from 305, 338 and 32 cents to $209,000, $209,045 and 32 cents, which I'll also note here an initial.
32.
209,045.32. You don't necessarily have to put it into the motion. I think you could say as amended. Unless you want to put the, because there's usually approve all the warrants in one motion. There are like 4 warrants probably.
Adam, this is David. Move to approve the warrants as presented.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Make a note like as amended or something.
Yeah, as presented as amended.
I second. Still, as amended.
On the vote.
Art, I.
David, I.
Caitlin, hi.
Adam, aye.
Alright.
Yes, items for next agenda. Yeah.
We need to review the police stabilization and recruitment plan with updates. Need to bring the minutes of September 15th back for approval after amending.
We should talk about the speed hump.
Will the traffic ordinance amendments be ready back?
We'll go to the traffic committee first.
Right.
I doubt they'll have a meeting between now and then. They've sort of been meeting as needed. So they'll probably have a call meeting.
Yeah, it might take a little while,
Yeah, I think
although arguably it's not in a rush, right? Like.
Right.
I think as long as we have public hearing on it by February,
Yeah.
that gives us a couple months to get through that process and have it in place by May, which is when we really need it.
Yeah.
Although I guess it would be good to give Pete the authority to not wait a little later.
You can only just amend that one section and then put it back up again, like.
Yeah. Maybe we do that.
Do 2 different public hearings.
Yeah, maybe we come back and
It's
have,
pretty simple.
what, if we had a public hearing in.
Hmm.
October, it's gonna be till the end of November. Guess it would be in place by mid-January. Which is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, maybe we bring that back for just that piece of it.
Yeah.
Let the traffic committee look at the rest.
I think the CUSI, CCRPC.
Yeah.
Appointments.
Oh, it always does.
Well, I guess we could, technically we could go into an executive session if you would all like. For no reason.
They usually leave that on there in case.
Thanks for that opportunity.
I didn't want to pass up the chance.
Well, Mr. Chair, you're only 5 minutes and 15 seconds over the estimated time. Good job.
Job.
Bad for a first shot.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All's in favor.
Aye.
Aye.